and good morning. It is a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn Clark. He's Griffin. Prince Charles is here as well. We got a busy day on tap. Today's show is brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. I don't like how my voice sounds. Prince Charles made the point it's probably related to the pollen. I haven't had full-on seasonal allergies hit me. Like, I haven't woke up choking my own mucus, which is just a thrill, I gotta tell you. Man, totally better than living in Arizona where I didn't deal with this crap.
I think it sounds fine for what it's worth.
It's not. It's how it like it.
Oh, it feels.
It's straining.
Yeah.
It's straining to talk.
A little raspy.
Yeah, it's not great. I mean, I don't mind the raspy. Like, if I could keep the raspy without the strain, I deal with that, right? Like, I could have that sexy.
But even that raspy feel like in your throat, like.
Yeah, no, but the voice. I love the raspy voice. It's the Macy Gray sound. It's the I try to say goodbye and I choke. I could do that. Oh, I'm supposed to sing today.
Yeah, you are supposed to sing today. Yeah.
All right, damn it.
You know nothing about college basketball.
We'll do that. Yeah, because you did so great. By the way, hang on. We'll get to that. We got to get to a few things. So I'm trying to suck down some water. I could really use some hot tea. If anybody's in the neighborhood with some hot tea. Yeah. They have that over at 105.7 The Fan. And legitimately on Saturday on my way back from Deep Creek, when I knew I had to do both a lacrosse game and the Ed Block Courage Awards on Saturday night, I said, I'm wandering over and helping myself to some hot tea. Like, I don't know if I'm going to get fined for that or something. I was just like, dude, I need some hot tea bad. And it helped. It helped a great deal. Busy show on tap. Coming up this morning, we will put the finishing touches on college basketball season. Maybe even talk about, by the way, Maryland's got a new assistant coach in Mike Jones.
Who?
Don't act like you don't know the greatest day of my life. No, maybe not. But a really good one was when Mike Jones called into the show because we had that whole where Lamar Jackson, there was the reporter named Mike Jones, and he was like, Mike Jones, that's lit. And then John Harbaugh was talking about Mike Jones and, like, asking about him. And so I was like, I wonder what would happen if we called the number. And Mike Jones, the rapper, has reacquired that phone number.
Really?
It's not, he didn't answer it, but it's his, and he got us to Mike Jones.
I think that's one of the very few numbers I know off memory.
Yeah, go ahead.
281-330-8004.
Hit
Mike Jones up on the low because
Mike Jones about to blow. God, it was such a good time in my life. Maryland had a player, of course, at the time named Mike Jones, who was a deadly three-point shooter and didn't like to play defense. And so Gary Williams did not like putting him on the floor because he was not interested in the other side of the ball at all. But, man, he was a lethal three-point shooter, and every time he nailed a three, everybody in the crowd would scream out, Who? So great.
The reporter seems to be a fan, NFL player fan as well, just the community, because Lamar and then Mike McDaniels also shouted him out at the press conference.
That's right. I don't know. Oh, yeah, we'll talk about that with Patrick. Maybe a little Hunter Dickinson. Also,
Mike Jones, yeah.
A wild weekend in lacrosse. Also this morning, we will catch up with Nick Boyle, who is trying to take his career in a different direction. Says physically, tight end probably not going to work for him any longer, given his injuries. So he was at Maryland Pro Day last week, which was weird because, he's an NFL veteran and never went to Maryland, but he was there long snapping because he's trying to show to NFL teams that he could long snap for them, which is really interesting. So we'll talk to Nick Boyle about that, obviously longtime Ravens tight end. And also this morning, Frank Remesch, general manager of CFG Bank Arena. The building officially opens on Friday night. There might be something before that, and I might have gotten some good news in my life yesterday about the fact that so I was scheduled to be part of it. There's a soft opening event, and I'm excited about it. There's a performer, and I wanted to see him.
Mike Jones?
It's not Mike Jones. Pretty good one, though. And it's supposed to be a secret, but it's like a very poorly kept secret. So I guess we're all still in on it that it's a secret.
Gotcha.
And I was scheduled to be someone's +1, and then that person said, "I'm sorry, I can't go. I have to go away for Easter with my family. And this is not one of those like things where you can transfer because it's not tickets. It's just invite. And so I'm like, So I literally was doing the bit on Sunday when the mayor was in the studio with us, where I was begging the mayor for tickets. Like, you can get me in, right? He was like, yeah, I might be able to. And then someone else found out about my plight and took care of me. So I'll be there for a special event on Thursday. I'm very excited about that. And then Bruce Springsteen, of course, on Friday, and the Eagles on Saturday. It is one of the biggest in Baltimore. I don't know that there's ever been a bigger week for the Whites. It is a huge week for the Whites. Think about this. Baseball's back.
Yeah.
The Masters, Easter Mass on Sunday, Bruce Springsteen, the Eagles. Yeah, you go ahead and
maybe some
ask
Preakness
again.
Weekend. Maybe some Preakness weekend.
No. Ask again when White History Month is in Baltimore. We've got our own week. It's ours.
Yeah.
It is ours this week.
First week of April.
Belongs to us. Big week for the Whites. Anyway, Frank Remesch is going to join us. It's CFG Bank Arena, very much not just for the Whites. I want to make that abundantly clear. Lots of events coming up for everyone. But a big week for the Whites, nonetheless. Frank Remesch will join us. It's always like I want to be able to make these jokes and have everybody laugh, and then somebody's going to end up getting offended by it.
What's wrong with Glenn?
I'm going to get an email about it at some point.
I can't remember the conference. What conference does Bowie State in?
The CIAA.
CIAA.
Obviously, was at CFG Bank Arena
the week before.
Look, by the way, look at the rundown of it. It's very much there. It's all over the place.
Very much give and take.
It's all over the place. It's a little bit of everything for everyone. Please,
everything.
just let me make a joke. Yeah. I don't think that hurt anyone. I'm pretty sure I know where the line is between offensive, and I think that should be inoffensive. I don't know anymore, man. I don't know. It's what it is. Anyway, we'll talk to Frank Remesch as the arena opens this week. Also, we will catch up with CJ Nitkowski, former MLB pitcher, now an analyst for the Rangers on TV, and also host on MLB Network Radio. So we'll talk to him about not only Rangers, Orioles, but some other topics. What a wild night that was last night, as it looked like it was going to be another disaster for the Birds, as Kyle Bradish. I don't think we've gotten an update yet on Kyle Bradish.
I haven't seen one yet.
Gets knocked out in the second inning with a couple of runners in scoring position, and you're like, oh, no. I don't even remember the dude. How do you pronounce the dude's name that they picked up? The guy that came in and finished that inning and got the strikeout?
Colombe.
Colombe. That's how you pronounce it. Danny
Colombe.
Colombe, who showed up like the day before opening day and was like, hi, I'm Danny. I'm going to be a part of this
They're
thing
like, you're
now.
left-handed?
Right.
Perfect.
Great. Is he good? He was good last night when they needed him. And then Tyler Wells obviously was really good. Almost like maybe he should be coming in as a piggyback for somebody else.
Yeah.
I don't know how to. Maybe there's a story to be told there. We're assuming that Kyle Gibson will get the start tonight. They did not make that official, but he would be on normal rest to start tonight. He was supposed to start Wednesday. It would mean the Orioles would need a starter for Wednesday because, remember, they were off last Friday, so they couldn't just turn around and have Dean Kramer start. He would not be on normal rest if he were to start on Wednesday, so they would need a starter. Grayson Rodriguez did start last Friday at AAA. Didn't work very deep in the game. Only went 4 innings, but he did start.
Yeah.
I don't really know what the other. I guess if Austin Voth doesn't pitch today, he would be the other guy that and probably
they send him for 4 innings or so.
Probably the more likely option. Like, I'm gonna guess that the Orioles are gonna say we're not gonna screw with this. Like that would be my to me the more likely scenario for Wednesday would be that Austin Voth would get the start, but there is the possibility that it could be Grayson. I don't even know, when did DL Hall pitch?
I can find out.
I don't remember. I don't remember off the top of my head when he started, but those would be your options. We'll talk about the Orioles and the Rangers with CJ Nitkowski. But before we do any of that, it is time for us to update the Lamar-O-Meter. It is brought to you by who was it that finally figured out that the Lamar-O-Meter works because it involves Lamar's mom? Lamar-O-Meter. Somebody sent us that message yesterday. Like, I got it with mom. Like, that's
exactly
totally what Griffin was going for, and not just a silly combination of syllables that came out of his mouth once.
It's the correct combination.
Totally what he was going for. Lamar-O-Meter updates are brought to you by Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports. I was over at Glory Days last week with our friend Brad Kronthal from Alloy Sports. We had a lovely meal. I got the cauliflower wings with the Korean #2 sauce. I am a man who enjoys ordering some cauliflower when I go out. Like, I'm just a big fan of cauliflower. I don't know how to explain that. Boy, imagine telling 20-year-old Glenn Clark that sentence.
Big cauliflower.
Hey, in 20 years, you're going to go on the radio and you're going to be like, I'm a big cauliflower guy. I'd want to punch myself in the face.
I was able to hit up Glory Days last week, too. Got the Glory Burger.
Well, the Glory Burger is quite good. Nobody's going to debate about that. Obviously, the thigh wings. Anyway, the moral of the story being Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports. Now, Griffin, please open your email where I have sent you a clip from the Pat McAfee program yesterday. Ian Rappaport from the NFL Network was on with Pat McAfee and kind of reiterated some of the things that we have talked about when it comes to how bombastic the response was in the immediacy of Lamar Jackson publicly announcing that he had requested a trade, juxtaposed with the reality of what that actually means. This was Ian Rappaport on with Pat McAfee on the Pat McAfee Variety Hour or whatever. Whatever it is. Yes.
What is the big news story this week? What should we be talking about right now? What will we probably be talking about this week in the NFL world, Mr. Rappaport?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the big things now are the big things, last week, and probably will be the big things at least until the draft, which is, Lamar Jackson, what's going to happen? I know, the Ravens had been negotiating with him, and he kind of reiterated his trade request. That is where it stands. I know they want to get a deal done. It does seem like his trade request is more like, I'd like to get a deal done with the Ravens for the right amount, and if that doesn't work, then trade me. That's kind of what it feels like, more than just like, I hate all these people, get me out of here, trade me.
That's what we need. Again,
the relationship
this reiterates what I keep saying, which is whatever you guys thought that was when Lamar Jackson put out a trade request, it's not a trade. I can only say this so many times. There's a difference between I can't be here any longer, I won't be here any longer, I refuse to be here any longer, and I want to get paid this amount of money, and if you won't pay it to me, find out if someone else will. To which the Ravens say, well, we're not going to do that work for you. Why would we? And as I've only said a billion times, it was interesting when Stan was trying to crow yesterday about, like, well, I told you his value had gone down. Well, it's actually completely untrue, and I should have said this to him yesterday. The Ravens upped their own offer to Lamar Jackson. I know that is a fact. Now, exactly how they upped it, I don't know. I don't know what the numbers were, but they offered him more guaranteed money than what they had initially offered him. So his value to the Ravens hasn't changed. The Ravens badly want him. We don't have no idea. We know that publicly other teams have said that they're out on him, but we also know that all of those teams can't get him. Yeah. And that's really what it comes down to. Like, the part that I can't, it might very well be that there are teams that are being completely honest and saying, we never liked Lamar Jackson to begin with. We didn't think he was the guy coming out of the draft. We don't think he's the guy now. But we don't know. We have no idea, because what we do know beyond any shadow of a doubt is that the Ravens have made it abundantly clear to the NFL, don't waste your time. Don't bother. We're going to match. You'd be clearing cap space. You'd be making moves for somebody you're never going to get anyway. Don't bother. Which doesn't mean, as I've said a million times, that there couldn't be some team that came along and bowled the Ravens over with an offer that they said, my God, we have to take it. We've been planning on Lamar being our guy, but Jesus Christ, if you're going to give us, again, established quarterback, what was the thing that we threw around with the Bears, like Justin Fields plus the number 9 pick? The number 9 pick plus next year's first. Plus, like, if you want to do something like that, well, I don't know, maybe we have to listen to it. The thing that we talked about with the Texans, like if they said you could have number 2 and you could have another don't one. They have the 12? Isn't that the other one they have? They got another first-round pick this year still because they've got the Browns' first-round pick. And the Deshaun Watson deal. You can have the 2, you can have the 12, you can have next year's number 1, you can have our second. Like, if they were to do something like that and the Ravens would know that they can get a quarterback with the second overall pick in the draft, then they'd probably have to listen to that too. What?
They have 12 picks in the draft.
Yeah, I mean
the entire draft.
Do you remember they traded Deshaun Watson?
Yeah,
remember that part?
I do. It's just so many.
Like, remember
picks.
they did that? I don't remember who their free agent would have been. They would have gotten comp picks for. I just off the top of my head don't remember things. I really don't. I really don't remember who they would have gotten a comp pick for as a free agent. Anyway, the moral of the story being,
maybe Cooks.
Yeah,
no, that would have been this year.
Yeah.
So they get the comp pick for that until next year. So I don't know who else from last year. They haven't had many good players. There's a reason why. David Johnson was years
they
ago
only have
when they
one comp pick. It's the 7th round. It's like the very last pick in the draft.
So what the hell did all the other picks? All right, you know what? I don't care this much about the Texans. We're spending too much time on the Texans.
They got 2 from Cleveland.
The moral of the story goes back to right now. What?
I think Watt maybe.
Still?
That was like 2 years ago.
I thought it was longer than that.
Longer?
I thought it was. I thought he was in Arizona for a few years. Yeah, I thought he was there.
You got a 5th from Dallas, a 6th
from
New Orleans.
All right, okay. All right. We're spending too much time on the Texans draft. I don't know that they care this much about that in Houston. Let me go back to the point. The point, of course, is the Lamar-O-Meter, brought to you by Glory Days Grill. What Ian Rappaport is saying yesterday is that right now it remains a dance between Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. So every time you hear that, you'd say, well, shouldn't the Lamar-O-Meter go up? What was it, 72 yesterday?
We were at 72 yesterday, yes. And now, I mean, it seems hard to put it down. Yeah, so you're going up.
75.
Wow.
I'll take it up to 75.
3% jump.
But I still, I don't see it going drastically more than that. Include the Ian Rappaport comments when you share with everybody why it is that we bumped it up to 75%. I still come back to you can only get me to go so high on the Lamar-O-Meter until we know how he would feel if no other offers ever come to fruition and the Ravens don't budge on what they're willing to offer. And where do we go from there? Is there a point where he will just take the best offer on the table and walk in and say, I got the second most guaranteed money of any player in history, and that's an accomplishment, and that's what mattered to me, and I'm good? Or is he going to continue to say, no, I had what I wanted, and I'm not going to do a deal for anything less than what I wanted? And if that's the case, then where do we go with the franchise tag? When does he show up? As I keep reminding people, because I believe Larry messaged about this yesterday, the percentage is percentage chance he plays week 1. Percentage chance Lamar Jackson is the Ravens starting quarterback in week 1, which means that I also have to leave in that chance that maybe he says, I'll take my holdout through to week 1, and then I'll make my statement. I'll show up and play after that. All of that remains on the table, even if it looks more and more like it's just a dance between the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. Everything remains on the table for how things might go at that point. So that's where we are. Lamar-O-Meter, 75%. That update brought to you by Glory Days Grill. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports. And there was nothing else really newsworthy yesterday related to Lamar Jackson. That the one thing was Ian Rappaport reiterating the conversations continue, and that Lamar Jackson has not said, I won't play for the Ravens ever again, reiterating the things that we knew from a week ago when it was reported that he was still negotiating with the Ravens. That for those of you that have decided this is, fractured between the two and it could never work out, you're deciding that. That is not based in fact that we know. That's just you projecting something. I don't know if it's because you want it to be that way or whatever it is. That's the way it is. So Lamar-O-Meter update, 75%, again, brought to you by Glory Days Grill. Now, on to the championship game last night, which was exactly how we expected it to be, with the caveat of, I would argue it was slightly more competitive than I expected it to be. When San Diego State made their run in the second half and got it back within 2 scores, I said, man. I was joking with your buddy and someone else, one of your buddies, on another one of them on Twitter last night, that
I don't know that
your buddy.
Buddies.
I don't know. Maybe it was your buddy's buddy. Your buddy Sean was like, "Well, I'm nervous about 13.5 at halftime," and I was like, "I wouldn't be. very comfortable they're going to cover 13.5, which they did. And then someone else pointed out that the live line at that point had bumped up to 19.5, and I was like, I'd bet that too. Now, I didn't, thankfully. Feel better about that because it did. It got very interesting for a moment in the second half. It looked like things could go a different way. That Hawkins 3 ended that. Like when San Diego State put that 9-0 run together and then Hawkins came back down and like it almost had to be that UConn went completely into the tank, lost their legs entirely, and that allowed San Diego State to completely close the gap. And the moment that he hit that 3 and stretched the lead back out, it was over. It was done with. It was never going to happen. And it's a remarkable story that this UConn team that looked lost early in the calendar year, lost 6 out of 8 games, looked, they were dominant to start the season. What did they win? 14 straight to start the season. They lose 6 out of 8. It looks like they have fallen apart. They somehow figure out a way to click exactly when they need to start clicking, and they ride it all the way to an NCAA title. It's really incredible that they've won 5 titles since 99 with 3 different head coaches. That's really remarkable. Calhoun winning 3, Kevin Ollie winning the 1, and now Hurley winning 1. I don't know what exactly it says about the program. I don't know if it says there's just a better infrastructure for basketball at UConn than there is at other places. I don't know. I really don't know what the statement is to be made, other than it's remarkable. It's remarkable that essentially they've won a title every 5 years. Like, imagine that, being somebody who cares about UConn, being somebody who would be about 25 years old, and every 5 years of your life, you're like, yeah, it's another national. You start to forget who was on what national championship team. Around here, we remember every little detail about Maryland's national championship team because there was one. One. If you're a fan at UConn, you'd be like, was Boatwright on a title team? Was he? I remember I was doing the bit last week with Caron Butler. I'm like, Caron Butler was on the title team, right? Right? Maybe he wasn't. Like, that's where it is, where you can't remember what player was on what team. It was remarkable. It was incredible. It capped an excellent NCAA tournament that maybe was not as top-heavy as some people might like it, but gave us thrills and gave us unexpected moments and wild upsets and some new blood, some teams that we didn't expect to be there. Gave us a little bit of everything during the course of this tournament. Buzzer beaters, the whole 9 yards, man. All in. It always delivers. It delivered once again this year. The bad news this morning is for our friend Ryan Chell, as he had been sitting in first place since like the Sweet 16 in our bracket contest. He had been alone in first place, and all he needed was for anyone not named UConn to win the national championship. Anyone at all. Womp womp. Now, that bad news for Ryan Chell is someone else's good news. It's good news for our friends at Show Your Soft Side. Because the winner of our bracket contest, the only person to get the national championship correct, was not a person at all. It was a cat.
Oh, man.
Bugsy from Show Your Soft Side, the unofficial mascot of Show Your Soft Side, who, of course, was our benefactor in our bracket contest. Bugsy, I think with a little help from our friend Sandy Risette, put together a bracket, had UConn winning it all. The bracket was not very good. I believe until the Sweet 16, the bracket was in worse position than I was. And I finished 34th out of 38. But nobody else was getting points after that. There just weren't more points to be had. And Bugsy was the only one that had UConn, maybe because of Huskies.
Yeah, that's what I'm guessing.
Might be. Although there were a lot of Wildcats involved. I would have thought that Bugsy maybe would have enjoyed like Arizona or somebody like that.
Yeah, but I guess a Husky just sounds cuter. So
maybe. I don't know.
Go with the Huskies.
Bugsy was the only one to pick UConn to win it all. And so a bracket that had, I'm not kidding, from the Sweet 16, all of 40 total points. One team correct in the Sweet 16. One. ended up winning our bracket contest because that one team that they had correct in the Sweet 16 happened to be UConn. And they rode that for 80 points in the Elite Eight, 160 points in the Final Four, 320 points in the national championship game. And that surged them past our friend Ryan Shell, as no one else got any points at all past the Elite Eight. And so, congratulations to Bugsy, and more importantly to the folks at Show Your Soft Side, because they, instead of getting the $380 that we initially promised them as their take in the bracket contest, instead will get all $760.
Wow.
And I think we can
That's
get behind
pretty good.
that. They do incredible work at Show Your Soft Side to take care of pets in our area, and so I'm really, really happy. That's awesome, man. That is, I know it's got to be a little tough for old Ryan. I know that's got to be a little bit. Like you're sitting there and you're saying to yourself, like for 3 rounds, they just lose one game. All I need is for them to lose one game, and I'm good. And not only did they not lose, they really never threatened.
By 20.
Yeah, they really never threatened. There was never really much of a point where you could believe it. Maybe when it was a 6-point game last night, you were like, but yeah, that's a little bit tough. So very cool. Very, very cool that it works out that way, and Show Your Soft Side ends up getting the entire pot from our bracket contest. Love that. Now, with that in mind, 2 things. 1, you're about to, unfortunately, hear me sing. It's just the way that it goes, and that's what we have to do. But remember we talked yesterday about doing something for the folks in Arkansas. John in Little Rock suggested something to me. And if you guys are up for it, I don't give a lick about the Masters. But if I can get 20 people to do a $10 buy-in, half the pot to the winner, half the pot to the folks in Arkansas who are impacted, that would raise $100 for the tornado victims in Arkansas. It's not a lot, but it's something we could do. So if 20 of you were willing to get in on that and say, absolutely, I'm in, it's just $10. That's it. I get it. This is not as exciting as the NCAA tournament or the World Cup. I mean, for you, for some people, it's very exciting. For me, it's just not.
Maybe we just get 20 Drew Forsters.
Yeah, well, yeah, it'd be fine. But I just need $10. That's it. I just want $200, $100 for the winner, $100 for the tornado victims in Arkansas. I need 20 people to step up, put $10 in. I don't know how many people there are in the field in the Masters. I'm going to need you to do a little work on this at some point today. And then we will try to find like rankings or look at the odds, and we will try to appropriately snake it so that we draft, we have pools of players, and you get guys from that group of players so that everyone will get one of the top 10 players in the field, and so on and so forth. All right? Can we work on that today? I know we got a lot going on today. I think Charles and I have a meeting after the show, so I'm going to put you in charge of working on that after the show. All I need, 20 people, sign up. Just tell me you're in, at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter. I'll get you through the process with Venmo, PayPal to get your it's it, $10. That's all I need. I just want to raise $100 to help the folks in Arkansas. Do something small.
My friend already Venmo'd me. He's in.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you. I just need 20. That's it. 20 people. We will did I do that math right? So everybody will get a top 20 player in the field, because we're going to have 20 participants in this contest. So everybody gets one top 20 player in the field. There's got to be how many players are in this damn
team? 88.
88. Yeah, so everybody's going to get
on 60 something.
Everybody's going to get counting. 4 players, and then we'll just the bottom 8 guys, or like the 8 old guys that just come back to play because like they come back to play, we'll just toss them out, right? Like, well, I mean, I don't think people would actually want to have Tiger. I'm talking like I think Sandy Lyle still plays in the Masters because they let former champions come back and play every year.
Yes, he does.
So I don't think we're going to include Sandy Lyle because I think he's 100 years old. But beyond the bottom 8, the 8 players that have the worst odds, we'll take the other 80 and we'll give everybody 4 of those names. And if your guy wins, you get $100. $100 to the tornado victims in Arkansas. Got it? We cool on that?
Sounds good.
All right, now, unfortunately, I mean, for me, Griffin and I had a side bet because the morning that the NCAA tournament started, I found out that the March Madness app had a channel that just ran, or before the games began on the app, they just ran
the one
a montage of all of the one shining moments over the years. And I sat here like a puppy dog. I was so happy. I was so happy. I've never been happier in my life.
Is there some royalty-free? I guess probably not.
Oh, we're not going to play it through. I'll have it playing in the background.
Okay. Did you guys see Jim Nance?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, Jim Nance, who called his final.
Final four.
Took it all in during the celebration.
I love Jim Nance. I think Iron Eagle is really, really good. I think he's better at basketball.
Whoa, Glenn, be careful.
I think Jim Nance is the greatest golf announcer in the history of golf. I think the funny thing is, I would actually say, like, if I was splitting up Jim Nance's duties, I would give one to Kevin Harlan and one to Iron Eagle. Like, I would give the lead NFL role to one of them and the lead college basketball to the other, and I wouldn't care which one got which because they're both so good at those things that it doesn't matter to me. But Nance is golf, man. Like, there is no one that has ever been as good at calling anything as Jim Nance is at calling golf. All of this to say, that morning inspired Griffin and I to have a little bit of a side bet and said the loser will perform one shining moment. I'm sure you prepared like sounds for the background from the tournament, right? Like I figured you had that taken care of. How did you do in our bracket contest, Griffin?
Better than you.
How did you do?
Better than
How did you
I
do?
honestly stopped checking once I knew.
You finished in a tie for 28th.
Boom.
You finished with 440 points.
Boom.
Not good, but slightly better than your pal GC.
How many did you get? You got 380 or
350. Only 2 people finished with one of them being your pal Sean, who finished in dead last.
He beat me in our side bet.
Okay, what was that?
We fill out all 25 brackets that the app lets you make, and then we just go into a group and we're just like, yeah, let's just throw up $10 against each other.
Well, that's weird. That's a weird bit.
No, well, because then we can't get mad when we pick a bracket.
Let's get to the thing.
Okay.
So the loser was going to have to perform one shining moment, as first performed by David. Oh, you know what? Maybe we have to wait. Here's the problem. I never know if this is going to get us kicked off of Facebook. That's why we always try to do it at the end of the show, because
maybe that's how we end the show.
Damn it!
Music and
I wouldn't do it now because there are other things I wanted to get to at the end of the show. But if we get kicked off of Facebook, I'd rather happen at the end
because your voice sounds just like
Luther's. Mostly it sounds. By the way, after oh man. All right, we'll have to do it at the end of the show. I'm sorry. I was going to do it now, but then I thought about it, and if we are going to get kicked off Facebook, I would rather have that happen at the end of the show than have it happen now, where like you were able to watch all of the show and not have, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I would just rather have that be the case. I went into a bit of a rabbit hole at one point last night after One Shining Moment and started watching other One Shining Moments, including I have decided that I have the hottest of all hot takes. I want justice for Jennifer Hudson's One Shining Moment. It was panned. We were furious. But in hindsight, it's a good version of the song. It's good. It happened in 2010, I believe was the year. And the biggest problem we had was that for some reason, they decided to do a lot of video cut-ins of Jennifer Hudson during the course of the montage. Like they cut back to her like 5 or 6 times, which means less basketball, more Jennifer Hudson. That's never happened with another performer of the song. Every other performer of the song, they've never been involved in the video portion of One Shining Moment. Jennifer Hudson's version of the song, I think, is excellent. The more I've listened to it. This is how I'm spending my time on the show today, by the way, because it matters to me. And screw the rest of you. This is important. I also listened to Neo's for the first time. So Neo's version was only used for the team stream broadcast when Turner tried that briefly. When ESPN does like the Homer version of the college football. They did that for a little while for Turner's coverage of the Final Four where like, whoever was in West Virginia, they'd send some announcer with ties to West Virginia and a former player to do a Homer version of the broadcast on True TV or whatever. And Neo did an additional version of One Shining Moment that apparently was only aired on the Villanova team stream in 2016 when they won the national championship. I also listened to that one last night. Different. Very different.
Very different than Luther and Teddy.
Very different. Not bad. Not bad. The only one that's bad, sadly, was the one that Maryland got, because it was when they decided for whatever stupid reason to go back to the original writer and performer of the song, David Barrett. Mm-hmm. For whatever dumb reason, they replaced him with Teddy Pendergrass, and that was a good version. It's not Luther. Luther is the one, of course. And then for like 3 years, they decided to go back to David Barrett for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, 2002.
Yeah. And, of course, what year did Maryland win the national championship? 2002.
Taints the whole thing.
Noise.
Taints the whole thing.
Nah, it still makes me cry when I watch it. I still go back, watch it, and I start weeping again. Also, I realized how much it was before the days we could do all the production. There's very little of the Final Four in the 2002 One Shining Moment. Like, extraordinarily little, because they wanted to have it all ready ahead of time, because it was more difficult to do on-the-go production at that time. So it's one thing that I noticed as I watch back. We're spending a lot of time on One Shining Moment.
I mean, you have to.
It's important. It's effing important. All right, I will do that at the end of the show.
Everyone stay tuned.
I will pay my penance for losing my side bet to Griffin. Congratulations to UConn. Congratulations to who's on UConn's coaching staff that I think I knew, but I had forgotten about, and then they cut over to him hugging Dan Hurley at one point. Former Towson assistant Luke Murray, who is the reason why many of us in this community have met Bill Murray before, because Bill Murray used to show up at Towson games when his son was on the staff, and was in fact Bill Murray was there the day that President Obama was there, because they were playing Oregon State, and Craig Robinson, his brother-in-law, was the coach at Oregon State. And it was the best day ever if you wanted to beat Bill Murray, because he was the second most famous person in the room. Well, the third, I guess, because Michelle was there too. It was, if there was ever a time to want to meet Bill Murray.
Beat Bill Murray?
Yeah, sure. That was the day, because the crowds were all pushing towards the president, and Bill Murray was just like, man, I'm here. It was a good day to try to go have a conversation with Bill Murray. All right, congratulations to Luke Murray, who was a really good dude. I like Luke Murray a lot, at least the little bit that we got to know him, because he was only at Towson for a couple of years. In the immediacy of their turnaround, he was a part of that staff, and now has won a national title as part of Danny Hurley's staff at UConn. So congratulations to him. In fact, we should reach out. We should see.
To Bill Murray?
Yes, reach out to Bill Murray. No, reach out to UConn and see if we can get Luke on. I like Luke. Luke is a good guy. Was only here for a couple of years. I don't know how much he thinks about this time at Towson. It might not even register with him in any way. Like, all right, yeah, sure, that.
That stopped him.
Yeah, there was that. Sure, whatever. When we come back in, we'll talk more about the Final Four. We'll talk more about UConn and some, as I said, some goings on at Maryland. Mike Jones has joined the staff. Does that mean Hunter Dickinson could be next? And could it work? Could it work with Hunter Dickinson and Juju Reese in the same front court? Is there room for both of those things? It sounds really good. It sounds really intriguing, but I don't think that you want Juju Reese to suddenly become a stretch four. I don't think you want him to think that he should be shooting 16-foot jumpers. I don't know. We'll talk about that with Patrick Stevens when he joins us next. It is a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Baseball season is finally here, and what better way to celebrate than with some fresh gear from Birdland Sports? As a small business run by O's fans, Birdland Sports offers a great selection of unofficial merchandise, including unique designs like Birds Are Coming tees, player cartoon shirts, and championship prediction designs. And the best part, their prices are more affordable than the big guys. Get high-quality gear without breaking the bank. So whether you're heading to the ballpark or watching from home, show your love for the birds with Birdland Sports. Visit birdlandsports.com today to browse their collection and gear up for the season. Let's go O's!
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
Another Orioles season is in the books, and the Bat-Around was there every step of the way as the Birds posted their first winning season in 6 years. And after promoting 2 #1 overall prospects in Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson, Mike Elias has said it's liftoff from here. Hi, I'm Paul Valley, and along with my co-host Zach Goodman, we'll be here every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon all off season, discussing every signing, trade, and waiver claim as we navigate the cold winter months that lead to spring training. You can watch us at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline and facebook.com/PressBoxSports, or listen live at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. And if you miss a show, you can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. So tune into the Bat-Around with Paul Valley and Zach Goodman every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon right here at PressBox Sports.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
If you need more of Glenn, you can also hear him every Sunday with Rita on 105.7 The Fan. But also, if you need more of Glenn, what's wrong with you?
Back in here on GCR as we continue on a Tuesday edition of the program. Baseball season, of course, is underway, and you can bet on baseball on your phone for the first time ever here in the state of Maryland. So go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers for the best sportsbook offers and incentives so you can start winning today. Get up to $1,000 in a deposit bonus match, plus a $50 free bet with DraftKings. Just go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers to claim your incentive today. All right, lot to do here on a Tuesday edition of the program. Every Tuesday, we welcome in our friend Patrick Stevens from the Washington Post and USA Lacrosse Magazine. You follow him on Twitter at Discourse, D1S Course. Patrick, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm well, Glenn. How are you this morning?
I'm all right, my friend. Can you, for those that weren't paying attention when it happened, how did UConn go from world beater to start the season, team that couldn't win a game for a little while, to then again being world beaters when the season ended? How do you tell the whole story?
Well, I think some of the way you tell the story is by pointing out that their defense really sagged. I mean, that's really what happened there in January, is their defense, which was really good early on in the season, got tested a fair bit. And some of that was a matter of playing a couple good offensive teams. Like they played Xavier twice in that stretch. They played Marquette. But I think some of it, too, was just kind of figuring out exactly how to deal with the counterpunch that people gave them. I mean, when you really look back at what they did early in the season, they obviously won the 3 games out in Portland in the PK 85 event. But beyond that, they really didn't do a whole lot else. I mean, they beat the snot out of a lot of teams, but Alabama and Iowa State were really the only two that were kind of higher end type of teams in that stretch. So, I think they kind of had to adjust, adapt, and all that. And even when you look back at the games that they lost after January, I mean, Marquette obviously played a really good game against them in the Big East tournament, but they lost a 56-53 game at Creighton. I mean, that's it. And so, they kind of figured out those defensive issues, and I think we saw throughout this tournament that was not a problem at all for UConn, keeping 4 teams in the 50s, and they didn't give up more than 65 to anybody, and that was Arkansas that got to 65, which pretty good to keep them at that point.
Yeah, suffocating defense for sure during the tournament. I also wonder what the state I know it's amazing that a program has won 5 national titles in 25 years with 3 different head coaches, but I don't know what else there is to say about it. Like if somebody said, "Okay, now go write a column about it," I don't know what I would say other than it's amazing. I have no idea what the statement is to be made about a program sustaining success over 3 different head coaches.
Well, it's not even so much that. The really interesting thing about them is that is that between the last title in 2014 and this title in 2023, between the end of that tournament and the start of this one, UConn won exactly one NCAA tournament.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And had a massive existential crisis while it was off playing East Carolina and Tulsa and Tulane in the American. And essentially, I think that the real story with UConn is that the big question was, it's a little similar to what Syracuse faces right now. It's sort of similar to what Arizona faced when Lou Olson retired. Mm-hmm. Like, is this a one-man show? Is it only one guy that can kind of figure this out? And Kevin Ollie won a title in his second season, but that was those pins were set up basically, I think. But to be able to kind of go through that wilderness that was fueled by football, going off to play in the AAC, saying, you know what, we're fine being an independent and playing whatever. It can't be any worse than this. Let's go back to our basketball roots. Go back to the Big East, and then do this 3 years after rejoining the conference. I mean, that's pretty impressive. So, I think that to me is the real story with UConn, is that it was basically lost there for a few years. And you go back and look at the last two Kevin Ollie years, 16 and 17 and 14 and 18.
Yeah.
That was 5 years ago.
That's amazing. That really is amazing. Like, I don't know what else there is to say. It's incredible, and a statement about the job that Dan Hurley has done, clearly at a place where it's easier to do the job because there is an infrastructure that exists that cares about basketball. And I think, to your point, a lot of people brought up, like, would he have been able to do this had they stayed in the American Athletic Conference? And it sounds kind of silly what's actually different, but I don't know. There's a part of me that says probably not. They probably needed to be in the Big East in order to make this happen.
Probably not to this level. And I think, too, you have to think about, yes, I know Houston's was a 1 seed this year and has been highly seeded the last few seasons. But simply snagging the seedings that they got the last 3 years, 7, 5, and now 4, a lot more of a challenge in the American. Like, it's to get to the 4 line, you would have had to have been really good all the way through. And I'm not sure that non-conference schedule would have really done the trick. Now, they probably wouldn't have lost as many games in league play had they been playing in a schedule in the American this year. But there's also the point of you're trying to attract players, and the idea of playing a conference tournament in Madison Square Garden and playing all these regional rivals that you were accustomed to. That was a big unmooring that occurred for UConn to kind of look around. It's like, what's going on? Why is this? What's up with these conference games against SMU and Wichita State? And I think that is a really important element. And I would also point out, by the way, one of the trickle-down effects of UConn leaving the Big East was that it elevated programs like Providence and Seton Hall, which suddenly didn't have, in Providence's case, a team in New England in the same league that bullied it.
Against, yeah.
And in Seton Hall, it could target players in that tri-state area with the same sort of, play in New York, Big Apple, all that stuff appeal. And UConn coming back to the league, I think, has lowered the ceiling of those programs. I don't think it's much of a coincidence that
those coaches wanted out.
That you see that those coaches. Now, let's be honest. Like, Kevin Willard clearly got a better job going to Maryland. He got a better paycheck.
Yep.
But I suspect he was probably a little more amenable to the idea of looking because of that. And I strongly suspect that the Providence to Georgetown move that Ed Cooley made a couple weeks ago is maybe a little harder to come by if you don't have UConn kind of sitting there as a potential bully. Because I definitely think Providence is the team that loses the most with a really good UConn among those Big East teams.
That's really fascinating. Staying on the coaching front, obviously since the last time we talked, Maryland loses one of their assistants as Tony Skinn heads to George Mason. They have filled the role. And I don't know really what to make of Mike Jones, taking on an assistant coaching job. It seems like a very good hire, but it has led, of course, as you know, Patrick, to all sorts of hullabaloo about Hunter Dickinson being in the transfer portal and whether or not that could work. I clearly that's not your area, but from a basketball standpoint, the idea of Hunter Dickinson and Juju Reese being on the floor together, I don't think Maryland wants Juju Reese. While he's maybe not a natural 5, I don't think they want him to suddenly think that he's a stretch 4. Can that even work from a basketball standpoint with those two guys being together?
Maybe, although I do think it might be a struggle to get the defensive element to work as well as they would like to, right? Like with the identity that they tried to establish this year, I'm not sure that's the right combination. That said, the other element of this is we've talked a lot about trying to be different from the rest of the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure we've talked about this a couple times, right? You add a 7-footer that's really good. Now you're trying to be like the rest of the Big Ten again. And I'm not sure that's obviously it would only be a year basically, right? But it's not, I don't think, the long-term path to success building a roster like that. Now, you bring Hunter Dickinson in, that's a good player, no doubt about it. But there's a lot of different ways that they could go about things. And, if they get him, that's, I'm sure, lovely. It would be a story for a few days as to, you used to hate Maryland and make a big deal out of it. Here you come, and this, that, and the other. But I also think it's worth pointing out that, over the last 2 years, Michigan's a combined 37 and 31. So, that's not that is not an automatic ticket to going to a Final Four. Could help, but not a guarantee.
It's a really good point. It is an extreme. You can't ignore it. Like, this is exactly what we talked about. Is this the path to NCAA tournament success? I don't know if that's the case whatsoever. One more quickly on the coaching front. Former Terp Dwayne Simpkins gets the job at American. The difficulty of that job, it seems like if there's someone who has grinded and worked their way up and understands exactly what they're getting into, Dwayne Simpkins would seem like he would be very high on the list of guys that would understand exactly what it is that he's signing up for.
I would agree with that. And I think the deal at American is that you have to understand that this is not a place that is simply going to push all of its chips into athletics.
Right.
Which, you sort of understand at the Patriot League level to some extent, but, it is not even like a Army or a Navy where there's at least a fair bit of investment on whether you beat the other, or even a job like Bucknell, which, has a pretty dedicated fan base. You're the one that has to generate the enthusiasm. And it's not an impossible job. Mike Brennan went to the tournament in his first year in 2014. And when you look over the last several years, they had a 12-6 league record in 2020. They had a good start to this season. They beat Georgetown, which I know this year doesn't really mean as much. But if you're a Patriot League school, that's still a pretty impressive thing. Jeff Jones had plenty of success at American for the 13 years he was there. It is not an impossible job.
Was he coach when American beat Maryland? When American beat Maryland, who was the coach? Was it Jeff Jones?
That was Jeff Jones.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So, I think that when you look at that, part of the issue too there is that it is a winnable league. It's a winnable league for just about anybody in that conference if they get the right coach and invest even a little. So I'll be curious to see how Simpkins does there. He's worked really hard. He's been a very effective assistant coach at George Mason the last several years. And I think it's certainly he's somebody who's earned the opportunity to run a program of his own, particularly in the area. Kind of a nice echo that his first head coaching job is the same first head coaching job that his college coach.
That's right, Gary Williams, absolutely. It's a very good point. All right, Patrick Stevens with us. Speaking of Maryland, what a bizarre – I did not get to watch any of it because I had Loyola at the same time on Saturday. What happened there, and how alarmed should we be by Maryland not just losing but kind of getting rocked by Michigan on Saturday?
Yeah, that was not a good showing for Maryland, a 16-11 loss at home to Michigan. And I think a lot of it comes down to you look at it, and they shot 11 of 41, and they only put 21 of their 41 shots on goal.
Yeesh.
The rest of the numbers don't stand out, really. I mean, obviously, the one thing I will say that does stand out a little bit is that Michigan won 17 of 30 faceoffs, which is not what you would expect to see against Maryland.
Yeah.
But that's not a massive deterrent to being able to win, being just a little under 500 there. You can find a way to win that. But the issue for them was they just did not shoot very well at all. And you look at the starting midfield, and that was a group that was 2 of 12. And so obviously had some issues as well, defending a really good Michigan attack. I think people don't realize the work that Kevin Connery has done into building that group up, and Bem with 4 and 2 and Zawada with 3 and 4. That is a good unit. And it's not shocking that Michigan's picking somebody off. I didn't expect them to win at Maryland. That said, this is still a Maryland team that picked up valuable victories the previous 2 games against Virginia and Penn State. And I think if you're Maryland, you'd probably rather have those 2 and take the loss to Michigan than some other combination.
That's a fair point.
So it's the sky is hardly falling in College Park, but that is a sobering reminder that this is not 2022 anymore for the Terps.
And then 2 teams that did get very good wins this weekend. Obviously, Johns Hopkins beating Rutgers, I think, is significant. And then, I don't know, I was ready to almost completely write Navy off. Kind of stunning win for them over Boston University. Is there a chance they could still make some noise?
Well, they're going to have to do it within the conference. Obviously, it's not going to be a team that's going to make a run into that large berth at this point. Yeah. And you can always count on Navy to play well against Army in the regular season, and vice versa. That game, which is coming up in a couple weeks, is going to be tight. It'll probably come down to the last 5 minutes, if not an overtime scenario. So I wouldn't write Navy off completely, but they've obviously still got a lot of work to do, and their path to victory looks a lot like what it did on Friday night when they played really good. Yeah. Jackson Bonnet's kind of a reminder. That guy was on the under 21 national team that went out to Ireland over the summer, and he's really good. So as for Hopkins, 9-3 now, and really looking like a team that not only is going to make the NCAA tournament, but is positioned really well to land a seed and play a home game, which I don't think any of us saw coming.
Yep.
I think everybody on the outside was kind of like, if they can simply be a top 15 team, I'm sure you could go find a clip of me saying pretty much exactly that.
Yep.
If they could be a top 15 team, that would constitute progress. And, they have played really, really well. But what they had going for them the other day against Rutgers was depth. I mean, they had all 3 players on their second midfield scored twice. They had a short stick D-Mitty in Brett Martin, who scored twice. One of them was right at the end into the empty net during a 10-man ride. And so they've got some options. And Jacob Angelus, I think, has kind of quietly emerged as one of the best table setters in the country. He had 2 goals and 3 assists the other day. And they just kind of have played well in fourth quarters here over the last month or so. They've won 5 in a row. It's their longest winning streak since 2018. And, they get Penn State next in a game that if they get that, they're really in the catbird seat. They're the only undefeated team left in the Big Ten. But if they can pick off a second road victory in the conference, that would be pretty impressive indeed for Peter Milliman's bunch.
That'd be remarkable, no doubt. By the way, in the Navy game, if you missed it, Henry Tolker from Loyola Blakefield scored one of the most amazing goals I have seen all year. I would encourage you to just search Henry Tolker on Twitter, and you will find it. Let's play our game. Can Patrick Stevens name the MLB teams this particular player has played for? Patrick, the first one I thought this was brutal for me, but a very good player, a 3-time All-Star, a 3-time Gold Glove Award winner, a former batting champion and a Silver Slugger Award winner, but he played for one team significantly and 3 other teams very briefly in his career. They called him Cargo. It is Carlos Gonzalez.
Well, Carlos Gonzalez was definitely a Colorado Rocky.
That's the one. By the way, I went 1 for 4 on Carlos Gonzalez.
Okay. So was he in, I'm going to say the Dodgers?
No, it wasn't the Dodgers.
It was not the Dodgers. How about Arizona?
No, I'm sorry. I knew this one was difficult, man.
Let's throw Kansas City out for the fun.
Yeah, not Kansas City either. Griffin, you want to guess?
Yeah, he was a Yankee, right?
Nope, he was never a Yankee.
Wow.
He was apparently started his career in Oakland. For the record, he was in the Diamondbacks system. He was part of a Dan Herron trade that he ended up in Oakland. And then he split 2019 with Cleveland and the Cubs, and I remember none of it. So I knew, I'm sorry, he was too good of a player for me to leave him off the list, but I knew it was difficult. So then I'll give you an active guy because I didn't realize he was up to 5 teams until I saw him recently. 5 teams for a multi-time Cy Young winner now. Corey Kluber is our second name.
Well, Corey Kluber has been in Cleveland.
Yes.
And New York.
Yes.
And Texas.
Yes.
And Boston.
Now, correct. That's the reason why this jumped out to me.
And Tampa, right?
5 for 5. Very nicely done on Corey Kluber. Very well done. What's the schedule look like for you, my friend?
Off to, I'll probably see you, right, on Friday?
I think
maybe in Loyola?
I'm not doing the game on Friday, but I think I'm going to come over with the kids on Friday, so I'll make sure I say hello.
And then Providence and Georgetown, kind of a quiet Saturday around these parts. So those 2 lacrosse games will make up the schedule for the
Very
week.
good. At Discourse, D1S Course on Twitter is how you follow him. Of course, USA Lacrosse Magazine and the Washington Post. Patrick Stevens, always appreciate you, my friend. We'll talk again next Tuesday.
Awesome, Glenn. You have a good one.
That's Patrick Stevens checking in with us as he does every Tuesday here on GCR. Hey, expert and award-winning AJ Michaels Heating, AC, Plumbing, and Home Performance will improve your home's energy efficiency and comfort levels. AC season is coming up fast. New rebates and discounts are available. Find out more at ajmichaels.com. All right, into the 11 a.m. hour of today's program. We have much to do still on a Tuesday edition of the show, including the opportunity to catch up with someone who's been a friend of ours for a few years. Of course, hell of a player with the Baltimore Ravens, and his career might be taking him down a different path. Joining us now, former Ravens tight end and perhaps future long snapper. He is our friend Nick Boyle, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Nick, it's Glenn. It's great to catch up, man. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
Yeah, what up, Glenn? How you doing? Always glad to come up here or come on here and talk about football and career paths and what I'm doing and what everyone's doing, and just to kind of buzz around Baltimore. And like I said, it's always awesome to come on your show and just talk some football.
Dude, you know, I always appreciate you. It's been great getting to know you over the years. And I, of course, love what you and Christina do. You know how much Show Your Soft Side means to me. Hey, did you hear Sandy won our bracket contest this year?
Oh, did she really?
On
wow.
behalf of Bugsy, the cat, who she had fill out the bracket, the only person in the contest to get any points after the Sweet 16 because she had UConn winning it all. And so
that's a sign right there for
right?
you, huh? Like, you know, how much of a part you play in that as well, and just, you know, Sandy taking it home, winning it all. That's cool. That's exciting to hear.
$760 for Show Your Soft Side, which is awesome.
Wow,
very,
that's awesome.
Very cool. Nick, so this took me for a spin last week.
Yeah.
So tell me how this all comes about. That you know, we all know what happened last season and everything you were going through, and you get released. When did you first start thinking to yourself, hey, maybe this, from a physical standpoint, isn't what I want to keep doing any longer, but there might be something else I could do?
Yeah, I mean, going back a little bit, before I even got to college, I was trying to get to college just to be a long snapper. And so I kind of built a little bit of a foundation back then in high school. My dad took me to a couple of long snapping camps and, you know, kind of built my foundation for snapping. And fortunately, Delaware offered me to go play tight end, and that worked out for me. And, you know, like you said, I had a good career playing tight end, and when I traded, I wouldn't do anything differently about that. But so this past end of the season, you know, it's obviously I felt better this year with my leg, but not to really where I want to be. You know, I'm just not going out there to be average. I'm not going out there to just kind of move the guy a little bit or stay on me. I'm going out there to try to move the guy back, you know, 5 yards. And, you know, that's kind of the realisticness about that. After my injury is kind of, you know, tough to think about, but it's hard to do that again. So toward the end of the season, funny story, on a Saturday I was supposed to be released. Nick Moore's having a baby, and they come up to me and they're like, listen, we don't have any snappers. We can't get any snappers, and we know you can snap. Like, can you travel to Cincinnati and snap with that for us? And, you know, I'm like, you know, is this kind of an opportunity knocking on the door? Yeah. Am I totally ready to go do this? No, but let's roll with it, and I'll do it for them. I love the Ravens. Like from top down, it's an awesome organization, and if they need me to do something, I'll go out there and do it. And so, long story short, Nick Moore made the trip, whatnot, and he snapped, and I was still released. But the following week, he was sick for practice, and then again, they needed a long snapper for punt team and for punt practice, and so I went out there and I did it, and I'm like, I haven't done this since high school, and I'm out here blocking 80% of the protections for after you snap the ball and block on punt team, because it's snapping and blocking as a long snapper in the NFL. I'm like, I could do this if I really dedicate this to it, and it's easier on my body, it's easier on my leg, and I'm able to maintain my leg in a different way because of not all the running and pounding as the tight end would do. So that kind of just gave me, a kind of like a light bulb moment, and nothing can hurt. Let's go run with this and take this and see how far it goes. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
Sure.
But I truly think I can dedicate my time and do this and be a good long snapper in this league.
So can we define it as, either you're going to get an opportunity to long snap or you're done? Is that the decision that you have fully made for yourself and your health?
Yeah, for sure. That's the decision I made. That's the decision, hanging out with my family, being around my family, talking about it a lot. And the hardest thing about this is outside teams calling, saying, hey, like, we want you to come in for a workout tight end. It's hard, like I said, going back to it, it's hard for me to go out there and just be like an average player with all the work I put into it just to maintain my leg. And I'm not satisfied going out there and doing that. And I know I could be a great long snapper. So it's kind of like that's basically the idea. If long snapper doesn't work out, I'll figure out what I want to do, whether it be coach, whether it be scout, whether something with football. Just football always draws me back somehow. And how much time I have spending with my family right now. I love it. I love spending time with my kids. I love three kids under 3, man. It's like
you're insane.
I have no time, but I still don't have time. It's
you're
like I'm
psycho.
home and I'm still busy.
What's wrong with you?
But football brings me back.
How are you handling that? How are you breathing right now?
The kids are awesome, man. I try to say I'm the best dad in the world all the time. The amount of RC cars we've driven over the past, we probably drive RC cars 3 times a day. My son is probably the best 3-year-old car driver there is, but I think he has a little bit of an issue with it. We can't go outside and not drive the cars, so we're trying to find other things for him. But it's a blessing. It's a blessing to be able to have this much time with them and watch them grow up as well.
You met my kids at Project Runway last year, right?
Yep.
And I'm telling you, dude, like they're 8 and 5 now, right? So they're like people at this point. And it's somehow more insane than it was when they were 3. Like now, they believe that they have full control over me at all times. So like when I'm home, it's dance monkey dance.
Yeah. Daddy do this, daddy do that, and it's like you kind of feel like you're obligated to do it in a sense, to a certain extent.
Right.
But I could totally imagine.
Right.
Like
I made you.
They kind of got you on a string.
I'm responsible for you. If not for me, you wouldn't be here. I have to do. I joked with my wife the other day. I'm like, weren't the video games supposed to start raising them at some point? Like,
yeah, for sure. Aren't you supposed to be
right.
Go play video games for a little bit, or go do this for a little bit?
No, leave me alone.
By yourself.
Right. Yeah. Just trying to watch the basketball game. What are we doing here?
There's no chance. There's no chance.
Nick Boyle is with us here on GCR. Nick, is it like picking up a bike? Like, have you felt like when you're out there at Pro Day last week and what you're doing in workouts? Do you feel already like you are long snapping at an NFL level? Do you feel like you have picked it up immediately, and that if you get that phone call, there's not going to be a transition period, like you're ready to do it now?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's like 70% yes, 30% still learning certain things. And like I said, since I haven't done it since high school, there's still a learning curve. But getting thrown in that punt period out there and being able to do it into a decent level, I'm like, man, I can do this. And so it's basically all about reps right now. It's all about snapping more. It's all about, because, going out Pro Day was an awesome experience for me to go in front of teams and do it. But every time I snap a ball, I'm trying to figure out nuances. Like I'm a perfectionist now. I was trying to be the perfectionist as a tight end, as, footwork and all that. Now it's transitioning into long snapping. And so it's just reps at this point. It's all about getting out there. And, obviously if I get with the team, have a whole spring to do it, have, a training camp, I have no doubt in my mind I can't go out there and do it. And it's like, I snap today, I snap tomorrow. Every time I get down and before I snap the ball, just feeling how it, like, your body's in, feeling how the ball's coming off your hand in different ways. I'm still kind of curling that out, or like, going with the fine-tooth comb through all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, even if I had to get thrown in there right now, I have no doubt I can't do it.
You mentioned Nick. Obviously, before that, you were around, the guy, right? Morgan, of course, was like the guy. Have you reached out to those guys? Have you had conversations, tried to work out with them during this process at all?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I spoke with Morgan a lot, texted him, texted me back, spoke a lot, spoke with Nick more. And like I said, being around those guys, those are top-tier long snappers. Like, what better people to learn from than those two?
Yeah.
Like how Morgan grew Nick, and then Nick was, a second-team All-Pro this year. I mean, it's just like the resources I have, thankfully, right now are right here for me. And able to learn, and I reach out to those guys, and Nick Moore has been awesome. Even kind of late towards, even before I got thrown into maybe snap for the game, I'd say a couple weeks before that, I'm like, hey, Nick, let's go out to the indoor after practice and let me snap a couple times.
Huh.
Oh, yeah, let's go.
Huh.
You know what I mean?
Huh.
So it's just like a really cool, they handled it really well with being like embracing it, saying, yeah, man, let's go try and do it and see where it goes.
Did you find yourself over the years like ever trying to sneak off and still keep working on it at all? Like, did you find yourself like,
No, I
okay.
mean, jokingly maybe, but like I was just so engulfed in tight end,
Yeah.
It's like whatever I'm doing at the moment, I really just want to hone in and focus on that, because like I kind of live in the present time and trying to do my job as well as I can with what I'm doing. So, I mean, there were times in practice I would do a couple PAT snaps or like, in case a backup needs to come in. But I never really, I know my son wants a different juice box.
What's your son's name? I want to tell him hi.
Brock. You want to say hi?
Brock, what's up, buddy?
Say hi.
Hi.
Hey, Brock.
Brock. He's a little under the weather. He's home from school, and I'm outside with him sitting in the garage right now.
God, that's the best. Oh, you sure you want to keep playing? Are you sure?
After my youngest was sick, and that's the most stressful thing when your kids get a little sick. And when like my youngest is 10 months and they can't talk, I'm like, I don't think there's anything more stressful than this. When your baby's not feeling well and you don't know what's wrong, and you take her to the doctor and still kind of sick. And, that I can go back and play football. I mean, just like for the love I have for football is all.
I get it.
The relationships, everything around the building is just special.
Dude, this is such a wild story, man. It's cool to me. It's a really cool thing to hear you talk about how much you love the game, that you want to do it, but also that you're at a place where you can't put your body through anymore. Like that's, I got to imagine that's not an easy thing to accept, because you are a tough MFer, man. Like you are a tough, badass dude. Dude, we had Max Williams. Max was in town for the Ed Block Courage Awards last week, and he called in, and I hadn't caught up with Max in a long time, and I love Max, right? Like great guy.
Yeah.
And he brought you up and was just going on raving. Like I believe he used the term best blocking tight end in football history, by the way. I believe that's what he said.
Even like what he went through, he's going through the same thing with his leg and his injury, and his, it's tough. It's so tough because you're ingrained in this your whole time, and then all of a sudden when you have opportunities to go out there and play, but you feel as personally you can't go out there and fulfill like to the level you want to. That's a hard decision, but it's. What helps me with that is my kids and my family.
Yeah.
That's what really helps me with that. It's different. I mean, I love my wife, but if maybe it was me and my wife, I'd still try to go play tight end. But,
I get it. Like,
it's just the kids, man. It's being around them and loving them. And, I want to chase my kids down the driveway and not be limping.
You're giving me chills talking about this, man. Like you really are, because I feel as a father, not clearly I don't know anything about pushing my body to the limits that you push yours to, but I feel what you're feeling and the importance of it and why it does impact and it changes you and it makes you think in a different way. And that's just such a cool thing for you to be able to say, look, man, if that's it, I will be able to be at peace with the fact that I'm doing the right thing for me. I had a hell of a run. I'm doing the right thing. It's a powerful testament in order to be able to say that, bro. That's really powerful.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. Yep.
Are you as obsessed with following day-to-day what's going on with Lamar as everybody else is? Like,
Not as – I'm almost, like, tired of looking at Twitter to see it because, like, this is my perspective on the whole Lamar thing. Like, dude, I love Lamar as a person first because, dude, he's just the most humble dude around the locker room, whether someone's a practice player or the starting receiver or a starting D lineman. Like, he treats everyone the same. And I love the Ravens organization as well. Like, why, I truly love that building and that organization. And when you see these things on Instagram or Twitter, it's so hard to decipher what's really true and what's not true on both sides of them, And so, like, you can take everything with a grain of salt, whether is this really what happened or is this really what happened? But at the end of the day, I just want both sides to be happy. And if they can come to an agreement and they can make it work, I mean, that's awesome. And if you can't, then that's the NFL. And, like, look around the NFL on all different sides. It's like sometimes superstars don't stay in the same team, and that's part of the business,
Yep.
But it's almost hard to follow. I've kind of almost, like, ignored it to an extent because it's been so much buzz around it,
It sounds like what you're saying is you hope Lamar stays a Raven unless another team takes a chance on you as a long snapper, and then you hope he goes to the team that takes a chance on you as a long snapper.
For sure. That would be the best idea. I would love that. That would be like God answering every prayer.
It's what you're referring to, though, because there were people. I'm sure you'll hear people say, I thought all he cared about was winning a Super Bowl. This is selfish. I imagine as a player, you understand that both things can be true, that you can both badly want to win a Super Bowl and care about that, but also want to have value and want a team to feel that value for you and think like it's not. Yeah. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
No, and that's what I mean. That's the hard aspect. If you're not a player, I can see this. If I wasn't a player, it's hard to look at that and saying, "Oh, the dude's being selfish." He said all he wants to win is Super Bowls, but also Lamar plays at a super high level and he holds himself to a very high standard. So there's two sides to this. I mean, obviously he wants to win a Super Bowl extremely, super bad, but it's this side where I've kind of been like, wow, Lamar's really sticking to whatever he truly believes, and that's impressive as well. And like I said, there's a business side to this whole NFL thing, and every player for the most part really wants to go out there and win, especially him. I see it being around him. I see the practice. I see how much he cares about the game, and the teams are still trying to do best for what what they need with cap space and all the behind scenes of things. And that's such a hard thing to sometimes find a common ground on.
Everybody wants there to be a bad guy, right? Like everybody wants there to be a villain, and sometimes nobody's the bad guy. Like everybody's just
nobody could be the bad guy in this situation. It maybe just doesn't work out, and no one's the bad guy. You know, it's just so hard to dissect it and put everything down because there's two sides, and both sides. Like I said, I love the Ravens organization and I love Lamar. And it's not like, oh, the Ravens are the bad guy or Lamar's the bad guy. It's just so hard to tell. It's almost like you just gotta see what happens.
No doubt. Nick, you know how much I love you, bro, and how much I appreciate everything that you've done for this team, this community. Moreover than that, and there are things that I know you've done for the dude. I'll give a behind the scenes story. I heard about things that Nick was doing for like some Special Olympics athletes over the years, and I kept asking him if I could write about it, and he was like, I don't, like just didn't want it, like just wanted to be able to do it and keep those relationships up. I am so appreciative of that, man, and I know that no matter what happens, that's going to continue because I know the type of people that you and Christina are.
Thank you.
I'm rooting like hell for you, man. I think it's a cool
Thanks.
story.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Wherever, of course, unless it ends up in Pittsburgh,
in Pittsburgh, man, I'm bringing the heat on the snaps, and whoever's rushing me is going to get put on the ground. Baltimore or not, if I'm out there, I'm just kidding.
You got to understand, I'm not going to be rooting for you at that point.
I get it. I get it, man.
Hey. I truly appreciate you, truly happy for you, and however this plays out, man, we're going to be in touch. Thanks for hopping on this morning.
Thank you so much, Glenn. It's, like I said, it's always fun coming on your show talking to you about everything, life, football, and see, here's my son.
Tell Brock.
Sweet, that's cool. Awesome.
Tell Brock we love him too, all right?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Glenn. It's awesome talking to you.
Thanks, buddy. You too. Nick Boyle, man, that guy's great. I love that dude. Nick is really funny, by the way. We were at Project Runway last year, and the kids wanted to take a picture with him. And Nick said to me, why haven't you and I ever taken a picture together? And I said, well, you know how this works. Like, I still have to be able to cover you. Like, I still have to be able to say things, like if you're struggling. And he just looks at me and kind of stares at me. But why can't we have a picture together? I turn Charles back, right? Like,
yeah, that doesn't cross any of his
right.
mind.
He's like, what is
loves you as a guy.
What does that have to do with anything? I'm like, well, all right. And we didn't, so I regret that because I really do. I appreciate Nick a great deal. He is one of the absolute best, and it's a cool story. It's a really – I like the aspect of saying, hey, I have pushed my body as far as I can push my body playing tight end. I want to keep playing football. There's a path for that. I'm going to try it. If it doesn't work out, I am not going to push my body past this point. I'm going to go be a dad. I love that. That's awesome. Thank you to Nick. Great dude. Appreciate that conversation. From one guy I really like a lot to another guy I really like a lot here on the show, and someone who is also very involved, of course, with Project Runway. We're hoping that, in fact, next year we'll be back at CFG Bank Arena as it officially opens this week. Of course, Bruce Springsteen on Friday night. Joining us now, General Manager of CFG Bank Arena. He is our friend Frank Remesch, and he's back with us on GCR. Frank, it's Glenn. It's always great to chat with you, sir. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
Absolutely, Glenn. Thanks for inviting me.
I'm always happy to do it. I remember you and I talking last year in the lead up to Project Runway about what the arena was going to be. From what it was in your mind to what you now see in front of you, how do you describe how much the work that was done meets what your expectations were for this building?
Yeah, it's tough because I keep saying this over and over again. It's very tough for me because I loved what I had.
Yeah.
And again, this is my 35th year in this building. So it's hard to put down something you loved. But no matter what I say, no one's going to believe what they see until they see it, right? I mean, it is incredible what it looks like. They eviscerated the inside of the building. There is nothing original left, zero. Concession stands, bathrooms, bars, it absolutely, I'm telling you, 100% incredible. Now, what I love about it, and where it met all my expectations, and why it's so important to Baltimore, is what is out in the Arena Bowl itself, and what makes it easier to do shows, move in, move out, rig, all those things, more electricity. Loading dock's gone. That proscenium stage is gone. Sight lines are incredible. Absolutely perfect now. Where we were losing something like 1,500 seats before to each show. Now it's 100% perfect view.
Wow.
And we were built. Now this is built for concerts. The sound is incredible. They put sound baffling all over the place to absorb some of the sound waves. So there's the attention to detail, especially for the functionality of the building, which is what I really care about because we have to get shows here, is spot on perfect, guys. Absolutely perfect.
Man, I love everything about that. I'm going to bring out a little picky thing that I like, and I know how much you love the building. I remember you were emotional about the idea of it not being like when everybody else would say bad things about the arena, you'd be like, yo, that's my baby. Like, that's my thing.
Hey, look, the best analogy I can give, it's probably politically incorrect, but if somebody says your kid's ugly, right? I know my kid's ugly. I just don't want you to say it.
Correct.
Right?
That's
my
my
kid.
kid.
With
yes.
the arena.
Right. The 200 level at the old building, there were a lot of times when I'd be there, whether it was for like a blast game with my family, and I would purposely buy a little bit cheaper tickets, and there would be people walking in front of you, right? Because there was that sort of runway, and you would end up sort of having to look around people. In looking at what you guys have now, that aspect is gone, correct?
I didn't even mention that. You're absolutely right. We are at 2 levels instead of 3 now.
Right.
The first and second level are combined. So basically all P1, price level 1 tickets all the way up. And the third level is totally open. You can walk around the concourse and watch the show like a modern arena. There's so many nuances that I'll even forget to tell you. Wait till you see it. The attention to detail is phenomenal.
By the way, I think I managed to finagle my way into spending Thursday with you, so I think I am going to get that opportunity and I'm really excited about that, by the way. And I I'll be back for a lot more as the summer goes on. I'm thrilled about it. Frank Remesch.
Look at the shows.
Oh, dude,
it's crazy.
So I actually had the mayor on the other day, and we both agreed, like, what you were able to do with the old building is historic. I mean, like, we could write a book about what you were able to do with that building. Now giving you this, my God. Hey,
the best thing I can say is our competitors, we woke them up.
Yeah.
Baltimore's always been an A market. Now we have an A building. My chains are they're snapped, and I can fight now. I was basically handcuffed before with the older building. And now the shows can make more money. They can get in and out faster, which is saving money. It makes Baltimore a competitor. We're one of the top markets now, and you'll see it. The one thing about me, I can't lie. Everything I do is transparent. You're going to know whether I have shows or not. You're going to see if people are in the seats or not. You will see. You will see the finished product.
I remember you telling us a bold number of dates that you believe that you're going to be able to fill on the course of a calendar. If we look to 2024, how many dates do you believe are going to be filled at CFG Bank Arena?
We'll be about 130.
Okay.
Which we did 105 before, and that's pre-COVID top numbers, 105.
Okay.
Of which were about 20, 25 concerts. Now I'm putting 60 concerts in.
So this is, and keeping all of the family type of shows that
sure,
you guys
absolutely.
had, the circus, the Disney on Ice, that type of stuff.
Yep, absolutely.
That's amazing. I know you, the mayor, nobody in the city has ever attempted to bamboozle on a sports aspect. You told me very directly there aren't teams coming, but events. We know that the city is trying to keep the CIAA I know Brandon would say he'd like to keep it permanently. Are there other things maybe coming in the pipeline that you have already felt from a sports standpoint could end up being plausible at the new building?
Well, I would say I would hope that I can do these things. I'm NCAs are definitely in my sights. Wizards games, I don't know if I can do a Capitals game, but I definitely will be reaching out. Maryland games, everything when it comes to that, because they're one-offs, right?
Yep.
And you look at them as almost concerts. And I definitely want to do one-off sporting events in here and also tournaments, but you highly unlikely you'll see a team, and it doesn't make financial sense.
I understand. I remember us talking about that, and you trying to explain, like, look, it's weekend dates that you're talking about for a lesser team. Like, if you go past the top teams, obviously, and it's not going to be the NBA, it's not going to be the NHL, those lesser teams, you just can't give up that many weekend dates for big events, for events that just won't draw the same way.
No, I will make more, and let's talk about the old building.
Yeah.
I made more off one concert than I did a complete sporting season.
Yeah.
Now, swallow that pill. I mean, that's hard to understand. And when they take 20 to 40 dates off plus practices, it's just not worth it. It doesn't make sense.
I understand.
And we found our niche. We support it. Baltimore supports it. It's concerts, and secondarily, it will be family shows.
And look, I get it. I completely understand, and I am all for what this is going to do for the city. That's the other side of this that's really important. I remember us talking before, Frank. Are you starting to feel that the neighborhood is recognizing what's going to be changing with the building, and are you feeling any aspect of maybe some revitalization of the area around the building because of it?
Well, we haven't seen it start yet, but when I'm at these, let's say, meetings throughout the city, the owners and developers of these areas are absolutely interested and have their eye on the ball. And look, if it's going to happen, period. We need infrastructure around this building. We need restaurants. We need after hours. We need shopping. It's no different than when the MCI Center was built in Chinatown and what it did to that area. I totally see the revitalization of this area.
I am. That would be, as much as I'm excited about the arena, and don't get me wrong, Frank, I'm very excited about the arena. If there can be further aspects of that, I know the Orioles talk a lot about the revitalization and a renaissance for Baltimore. I think all of these things can play a role in a major renaissance for downtown that would go a very long way for our city, and that's extraordinarily exciting to me. I saw something when everybody went and did the sneak peek. So are they like reusable cups or something like that are now available at the arena?
Yes. Pepsi is bringing a product that, again, I'm still learning it, so I apologize. And my main focus is trying to book this place to make sure we're ready to open. But this is a one thing too, and I'm going to come back. I swear to God, I'm not going to be a politician. I'll come back. Is we're the ultimate green building. Think about this. The entire building was recycled. Somebody explained that to me, and I thought, wow, that's pretty damn cool. And you will see this. Baltimore is basically a catapult that you're going to start seeing these projects all across the United States because it was a perfect situation, cheaper, faster, and saves the landfills. So with that being said, Pepsi came up with this this cup. It's basically a reusable cup. It has a QR code on it that you, when you're done, you can drop it off. There's a container, like a trash can, that has a flap on it. It will not open until the cup gets close, and then it'll open. You drop the cup in. Pepsi comes, picks it up, and then they clean it and bring them back to us. So it's a complete recycle process.
That's very cool. That's a very, very cool thing. And then did I see that there is like an outdoor deck area now for two outdoor decks? Great eye, absolutely incredible. And we have bars that serve them, so you can sit out on the deck or stand out on the deck, overlook Baltimore. The absolute incredible view. It really is. And you can get served your favorite beverage as you're standing out there. So, for example, if you between the opening act and the main act, you just want to wander a nice night in the summer in Baltimore, you can wander outside for a minute and overlook the city.
Yeah, and that's not a premium level. That's for the average ticket holder.
Anyone can access it.
Yes, sir.
That's really cool. That's really cool, Frank. I saw the view. It's amazing.
It is, isn't it?
That is really cool. I can't wait to check that out, man. That's and I think everybody sees.
I tell you what, too, and when we did the media tour, there was no negative responses at all. Everyone, I was watching everyone as much as they were watching me.
Yeah.
And I was looking at their facial, their jaws were dropped. And everyone's going to think, everyone that's listening to me right now is going to think I'm exaggerating. They just put lipstick on a pig, blah, 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 blah. I get it. Come, see.
I'm really excited.
And I'll be proven right.
I'm really excited, Frank, and I'm really excited for again, as I keep saying, I know to trust you, and I know that every time you announce another show, I'm just like, holy F.
We're getting ready to announce two more. I'm going to give you a secret, so just pay attention.
Okay.
You just saw Queen, right?
Yep,
two shows.
Queen and Adam Lambert, which is
opening their whole tour.
I saw today Andrea Bocelli was announced.
Yep.
And I'll be there for sure for Blink-182 this summer. That's definitely going to happen for me because I am a white person of a certain age, Frank. That is right up my alley. And there are going to be a few more that I will absolutely be there, and I can't wait. Frank, I don't know what else there is to say. Well done. I can't wait to be there. I'll be there Thursday. I'm going to come over. I'm going to make sure I say hello. Congratulations, and I think that's all I got for you. I know this sounds like I'm just talking you up, but I really am. I'm that excited.
Hey, Baltimore needs this, and Baltimore deserves this. Enjoy it. That's what I can say.
Frank Remesch, always appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for hopping on with us. General Manager of the new CFG Bank Arena, Frank Remesch. And again, it will be opening on Friday for Bruce Springsteen, and they've already got some Monster Jam shows, some pro wrestling shows, things like that from a sports-ish capacity, and we're hoping for even bigger as the arena continues to move along. Hey, Stan and Ross did not do their normal show last night, but Stan did a video with Luke surrounding his MLB Power Rankings. If you missed it, you can find it at facebook.com/PressBoxSports, PressBoxOnline.com/video, or YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline. CJ Nitkowski, former MLB pitcher, Rangers analyst, MLB Network Radio, joins us next. Glenn Clark Radio.
What air conditioning company can save 50% of your energy cost and qualify you for up to $7,500 in rebates? A.J. Michaels. We do more, we do it better for less. In Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles phenom Gunnar Henderson, breaking down how he was able to become the top prospect in baseball at such a young age and what could be next in his first full MLB season. Also inside, we meet lacrosse players from the men's and women's college programs across the state, and Bo Smoka breaks down another year of wide receiver issues for the Ravens. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Check out PressBoxOnline.com every day to find daily winners and betting advice from Jeremy Kahn. And if you want some advice about life decisions that you probably shouldn't make, here's Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR. Orioles opened up their series of the Rangers last night, getting a 2-0 victory thanks to the heroics of the bullpen when Kyle Bradish was knocked out early. Boy, Tyler Wells delivering 5 no-hit innings. Joining us now to talk more about that, about the Rangers, a little bit about the Orioles. He is former MLB pitcher, Rangers TV analyst, MLB Network radio host. CJ Nitkowski is back with us here on GCR. CJ, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to catch up with you, man. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
Yeah, hey, Glenn. How you doing, man? Good to talk with you.
Much better after what we saw last night, CJ. How do you describe that? Like, being put – for Tyler Wells to be put in that situation – against a Rangers team that had been mashing to start the season, and to deliver that cold in the situation that he did, I know it's amazing, but can you give us some more context as a pitcher as to how incredible that was?
Yeah, pretty amazing, the whole situation and the way that it went down. I passed to Kevin Brown, of course, the play-by-play guy with the Baltimore Orioles after the game, and he had said that what they had found out was that Wells had gone down and said, listen, he understood what was going on with the bullpen here lately and how thin it had been. And as soon as they had that situation with Bradish getting hurt, he went to Brandon Hyde and said, hey, if you need me to put my spikes on and go down and give us some innings, I can do that, which is pretty incredible. Like, it's pretty easy to be selfish in the game and think about yourself. And I think for the Orioles and, what this season is going to be, we'll see whether or not they can be sneaky contenders the way they were a year ago.
Yeah.
But it's easy when you're not on a team that's expected to contend or be a championship caliber team. You just think about having a good year and what's best for you. And so to see kind of an unselfish act like that speaks volumes, no doubt, to his coaches, to his teammates, and then to see him deliver the way that he did. It earns you a lot in the clubhouse. It was really impressive to see, of course, calling games for the Rangers. I didn't want to see it go that way, but you can't help but tip your cap to a guy stepping up in a situation where his team needed him the most and thinking really unselfishly.
It's a great way to, like, it won't go down. Like, everybody remembers somebody who throws a no-hitter, right? Like, we all know, we hold it up. This isn't that, but it's something unique in the sport of baseball that deserves some sort of recognition because it won't be remembered throughout history the way that it was. It was just a really cool kind of thing that you get in this sport sometimes.
It's right. And listen, it could have been a no-hitter. I mean, the one hit that the Rangers had yesterday very easily could have gone down. And Josh Young hit a ground ball to Gunnar Henderson. He fielded it clean. He just looked like he took his time. I know he's kind of learning that third base position a little bit more after being a shortstop throughout his amateur and early career. But when it happened, I looked up at the board. I kind of waited to see. I'm like, I wonder if they'll call it an error or a hit. And they very quickly called it a hit. I was like, that's kind of a tweener for me because the throw ended up being offline, but it very easily could have been a combined
no-hitter. But you're right. I mean, it's one of those things that it probably won't get remembered, but more importantly, it will within the clubhouse.
That's a great point.
Among his teammates.
Great.
I mean, when you do something like that, I mean, it always sticks out, and you earn your stripes, and guys never forget that kind of stuff.
He is CJ Nitkowski. He's with us here on GCR. CJ, the Rangers are such a fascinating team because there's so much new, there's so much money there, and expectations. And obviously, they started the season living up to those significantly. Let me start with the manager. My first ever interaction with Bruce Bochy was when I was working in Arizona, and I was young, and I was stringing, and I walked into his office post-game to just literally stick a microphone, and he looked at me and said, "I've never seen you before. You're going to have to drink a beer with me if I'm going to allow you in my office." And I was like, all right, like I can do that. That sounds pretty good. I dig Bruce Bochy, man. I'm all in. We all know the success that he's had. How much what has he brought to this Rangers team? And can you put your finger on what has made him so successful? Oddly, like, not every year was a wild success, but when it's mattered most.
So I think the overriding theme here that we're getting from the players is kind of the calmness that he brings to the clubhouse, that he brings to the dugout, everything that's going on around the team. Multiple guys have said that when he's in the room, everything just kind of feels right. It feels like everything is in control, but everything is relaxed. And that comes with 25 years of managing 3 World Series titles, but then a personality that just doesn't encourage any version of panic whatsoever. Right? You kind of take the game as it comes in an era, again, where there's so much attention on you coming from so many different places, and then all the things that you deal with that come from yourself internally and the pressure that you put on yourself as well. This game can eat you up if you're not careful. And so having that calming presence has been huge, I think, for a lot of these guys. For a team that's ready to really turn the corner after what's been, my first 6 years here, a sub-500 team with some bad teams in there. And so I think that part of it for the guys that have been here for a little while, and then just, again, something about the credentials that always carry, and to see the backing it up the way that he's carried himself so far. No ego in this, right? That's one thing. I mean, there's certainly guys that are out there trying to make a name for themselves, whether it's coaches or managers or just all different kinds of roles in the game. I think the thing you want to know most is that your manager is in it for the best of the team. He cares about your success, maybe above anything else. Those kinds of things that you get from Bruce Bochy reminds me a lot of when I played for Bobby Cox in Atlanta. Very similar in that sense, that the feeling when you're around him as a player is just a very calming feeling and puts you in the best position to succeed.
It's interesting what you said there, CJ, because I felt a little bit of that. Like, we're telling you now it's time. Like, we're not messing around anymore. Like, that's what comes along with having Bruce Bochy as your manager.
Yep, no doubt. And that message has been received going back to even last offseason. It started. We knew there probably wasn't quite enough there just yet when Corey Seager and Marcus Simeon and John Gray were signed up, and then they back it up with Jacob deGrom and then Nate Eovaldi and Andrew Heaney bringing back Martin Perez. It's a cool thing for us to see here, which hasn't happened since I've been here, which is every 5 days, as it stands right now, that this rotation feels like it's going to give you a chance to win. Right? It's Andrew Heaney today as your guest starter. Jake Odorizzi's hurt right now. I mean, eventually when he gets healthy, it's going to be a nice depth piece to have as well. And there were a couple of good young arms that the Rangers were throwing out there last year that are now either in the bullpen or in the minor leagues. And so they have some pretty good depth to go along with this thing as well. But the expectations are high. I know people wondering exactly what that means. I think if this team is not in contention at the end of September, it would be a disappointment. It'll be a little bit of a battle to get there. But if they're not in this thing the whole way, then I would say that this didn't come out the way they expected.
I was going to say, is there a pressure that comes along with all of this? Clearly they didn't feel it the first weekend, but is there a pressure with? We went out and spent $1 billion. Like, the expectations here are not, hey, you take a step forward. The expectations are you're competing to win a World Series.
Yeah, I don't think there is. I mean, every guy is different, right, and how you work through any kind of pressure. A lot of times it comes from within. But you're right. I mean, I don't know if these players every day look at and say to themselves, hey, look how much money we spent. We better win today. They thought that even when the team, maybe the roster wasn't there at the way that it should have been. You're always thinking you have a chance to win regardless of what's going on the outside. But I think it goes back to what we're talking about with Bruce Bochy, right? That's the difference maker there, where he kind of eases some of that pressure with the way that he carries himself and presents himself in that clubhouse. And when you have a manager that can do that, then you're freed up to really do what you can do best. I think Joe Madden is another guy you can put in that category, going back to his Tampa days, always known as a guy that made it comfortable for younger players, but made for a comfortable clubhouse so that guys could just worry about doing what they do best, their individual at-bats, when they're in the field, when they're on the mound, and the focus could be there and nowhere else.
Jonah Heim is a guy that we got to know a little bit coming up through the Orioles system a few years back, and was a really popular guy when he was coming through the Orioles system. Settled in as a primary guy a year ago. Obviously, isn't a huge bat necessarily. Is there an expectation that he could still become more of that? And what has he brought to kind of become that guy as he's reached the major league level?
Yeah, so a couple of things. You go back to last year, and essentially once the Rangers picked up Mitch Garver, which, by the way, was another one of those moves last offseason when they traded for him, it looked like the backup catcher situation was going to have to develop, and it was going to be between Jonah Heim and Jose Trevino, and ultimately they decided to take Jonah, and Jose went to New York and did a great job and won a Platinum Glove and is a great defender. But Jonah's right there with him. If you look at some of the numbers, or people like to dig and get into the weeds a little bit, but we look at those framing numbers and borderline pitches and which catchers best present those at strikes and get the most strikes called. He's right there. He's right there near the top in all of baseball. So he's done an excellent job behind the plate. There's so much focus on that framing. The bat overall last year, you might say, well, batting average was 227, sub 300 on base. I think they were pretty happy with the 16 home runs that he hit last year. The fact that he could slug a little bit and do the job that he was doing behind the plate. You look at catchers, there are so many different skills that they bring to the table, and very few can check off all the boxes, right? JT Realmuto in Philly is one of the few that can hit, that can throw, that can field, that can block, that can call a good game, right? There's so much that goes into it. I will say there's probably a little bit more pressure on Jonah this year now with the bigger bases. Obviously, the Orioles in town, we know they're going to run quite a bit. It was an area where he was a little bit light. He only threw out 17% of base stealers last year. League average is about 25%. So there'll be a little bit more on him there. But I think the Rangers were really happy with him last year. The part of it, too, was he did not go into the season thinking he was going to start more than 100 games behind the plate, and he did. I think he was 4th or 5th in baseball in the most games started as a catcher.
Wow.
And so there was a little bigger of a workload that was taken on that probably was not the anticipation. That's because Mitch Garver ended up having elbow surgery and was out for the second half of the year. But it worked out well for Jonah. He got the playing time at the big league level. He showed the Rangers what he can do. Could he have another tick or two up more offensively? Maybe. I mean, it's certainly possible. But I think he'll take some slug in there. Give me some extra bases, some home runs to go along with the job he's doing behind the plate, and I think they'll be pretty happy.
I get it. Book, there's still a part of us. We've got what we think might be the best catcher in baseball in Baltimore, and yet there's still a part of us like, hey man, I'd like to have him hit a little bit more if possible. It's just the pressure of being the centerpiece, prospect in the entire organization is that you could be the best catcher in the sport, and somebody could still be like, yeah, but could you hit 280? Could you do that?
Well, we're never satisfied.
Right.
It's interesting that with him too, seeing this game, kind of the switch hit numbers and how much better he was left-handed last year.
Yeah.
Than right-handed, versus that left-handed pitching. There was that bat that came in yesterday. I thought the Rangers were going to flip him back around, and they let Cole Reagan stay in, and he hit a pretty hard foul ball that was almost there. Eventually, he got him out. But no, you're right. I mean, Adley Rutschman is one of the more fascinating guys in the game to watch. I mean, if I'm an Orioles fan, I get it. On MLB Network Radio, we talked about them quite a bit this winter and wondered why, they didn't go a little bit deeper and make maybe that next step in free agency. I mean, I like Adam Frazier and Kyle Gibson, but I wondered about, is there more there? I'm sure no doubt that Orioles fans were screaming for it as well. But, man, they do have some good young players, man. There's a part of me that also admires the fact that they're willing to be patient and let the plan play out a little bit and not make any big mistakes too early and overreact to what they're doing. Now, if they don't add this winter and they don't dig in a little bit, and I know we feel like it's coming, then I think it's probably fair to criticize them and get pretty hard on them. But for the meantime, I actually like what they're doing with their young players with Gunnar Henderson and Rutschman and a lot of these guys. Man. It's pretty cool to see. There's a good group there.
He is CJ Nitkowski. Just another couple of minutes with him. CJ, I did want to get your perspective because you are talking about this stuff every day on MLB Network Radio. I'm not even all that worked up about, it would have been nice, trust me. I wouldn't have minded even a Nathan Eovaldi that you guys were able to pick up. But I would say beyond that, when we bring up Rutschman, Henderson, to me the big thing that I'm waiting for in Baltimore is doing what maybe not the Braves because they've done it better than everybody, but the Braves, the Diamondbacks did this offseason, the Pirates, doing the thing where you identify your guys and say, we're making sure we plant our flag with this guy. And as a fan, this guy's going to be here because we kind of get sick in Baltimore of the national conversation being like, yeah, Adley Rutschman's cool. When do you think he's going to end up being a Yankee? When do you think he's going to end up being a Red Sox? To me, the biggest difference in where the Orioles are and that next step is when do you spend the money on your guys? When do you step in and say, we're serious. This is not just a Manny Machado, enjoy him for a couple of years before he's gone situation. We're not playing around. We know these are the guys, and these are the guys. And how much of a statement would that make to baseball about what the Orioles intend to be for the next decade?
Yeah, it's a good one, man. I mean, I think, making those decisions properly, there's a lot of pressure on the front office, right? I think what you just saw in Arizona with Corbin Carroll and getting better than $100 million with, a month of service time is probably something that Adley Rutschman looks at and says, that's a jumping off point for me.
Yep.
If they're going to try to do that, it's got to probably start there. And to me, it's an easy choice for him, for a guy like him. I think he checks all those boxes that you're looking for to go along with the personality as well. The question becomes, that's an easy one. The question becomes the more difficult one. Or when do you do it? Like, is it too late? Did they miss the boat on Cedric Mullins at 28 years old? Do they want to do it with 3 more years of control? Those are tougher questions to kind of ask. Austin Hayes is a 3+ player with 3 more years of control. Same thing. He's 27 years old. So identifying the players that you think are the ones, you don't want to miss. I think the one thing I will say with the Atlanta Braves, they've done excellent work. I'll be shocked if all those work out. I mean, that would be amazing if it did, but there's got to be 1 or 2 of there that are probably going to end up being clunkers, but those are chances that you're willing to take. And I can even tell you who I think it's going to be. It's just almost like the odds are not stacked in their favor, but they've still done a great job. The White Sox have done a good job. You look at the roster they've put together and the money that they have spent. There's not a player. I think maybe Lance Lynn now is making just a little over $20 million on AAV, but the average annual salaries for that roster, they've done a pretty good job putting good players together. I know they haven't necessarily won the way that they wanted them to or expected them to, but it's a tough decision to make early on. But again, Adley's an easy one. The question becomes, where do you go from there? Gunnar Henderson seems like that probably would be a good one. Is there any of the guys in the minor leagues that you like? And we see these guys that are working on deals before they even actually get to the big leagues. It's risky. But for me, it's position players. I'm not worried about the pitchers as much. I'd rather get my position players locked up.
Yep.
I think it's riskier with the pitchers. So I wouldn't be necessarily thinking about Grayson Rodriguez or DL Hall right now in that sense. And Jackson Holliday's too far away. But to me, Rutschman and Henderson are probably the easy ones. A little bit tougher right now to figure out what you want to do with Mullins and Hayes because they're 3 years away from free agency. The money's starting to pour in now because they're arbitration eligible. It's kind of now or never, I think. Although I say that, there are players that are doing this with 5 years of service time, which always surprises me. When they're a year away from free agency and they sign a deal, it does happen more than it's happened in the game. But the Orioles got to get in on it.
Yeah, why wouldn't you just wait it out at this point and negotiate with everybody? Why are you in a rush to do this right now?
Some guys do and some guys don't. I mean, you know what it is? There's so much money out there now.
That's fair, yeah.
It's easier to leave money. It's easier to leave money on the table. We've seen guys now make decisions, Aaron Judge as an example. He could have got more money probably in San Diego or San Francisco. It's not about the best money, the top money for him. It's where you want to be. And so I think we have gotten to that point. We have really over the last probably 7-8 years where guys can leave some significant money on the table because there's so much there and they just want to be where they want to be.
CJ, before I let you go, you just brought up Grayson Rodriguez's name. The Orioles are going to need another starter now this week because of how they use Tyler Wells. We think they're going to go to Kyle Gibson tonight on short rest. They haven't made that official. But Grayson Rodriguez would be in line for when he made his last start at AAA to start on Wednesday. The Orioles had decided coming out of spring training, we want you to work deeper into games. We need you to get out of the 4th inning. I had wondered, given, he's never pitched more than 100 innings. You're not going to go to 300 innings this year. Would it be more valuable to just make 3-inning starts to begin the season and, build him up that way and not end up having to shut him down at some point during the course of the year because of how many innings he's pitched? If their decision was simply based on wanting to see him work deeper into games, would you still want him to keep doing that and say, hey, let's do something else for one game. Let's not change our plans based on the fact that Kyle Bradish got hurt and we need a starter this week?
Yeah, again, I think they're so patient. They've kind of shown us big picture that they're willing to stick to their game plan, that I would suspect that they would stick to their game plan in this situation. With a guy like him, the question becomes, do you want to bring him up and say it's only going to be 1 or 2 starts until we figure out, we have a plan for you this year, and you're not going to get the innings built up that we need if you're going to do it at the big league level. It is kind of an age-old question now that we've seen here. We go back and forth. What is the best way to get there, right? For a guy coming off a year where he threw 75, 2/3 innings, how do you even get him to 115 or so, whatever the number is that you want to get him to this year to be a jumping off point for the following year? It's much easier to do that in the minor leagues. The question, like you just laid out, is it less starts or less innings, but keep your starts going every 5-6 days, or do you just go through a quiet period during the year? I think everyone's different. I don't think everyone's going to react the same. I'd rather see a guy make the 28 or 30 starts over the course of the year and spread them out a little bit. The problem with doing that at the big league level is it puts a ton of pressure on your bullpen.
Sure.
And it's a difficult thing to do. And so, I'd be okay with that at the minor league level until the point where he's giving you hopefully 5 and maybe even 6 innings, and then you can get some big league starts in and you figure it out from there. But it's a tough one. It's not an easy decision to make and the best way to do it. But I like the idea, kind of what you were talking about, is get that number up higher so you get the feeling of making starts every 5 or 6 days over the course of a full season. It is nice that in the minor leagues now that the minor league season goes into September.
Sure.
Right? It used to be where a guy would pitch in the minor leagues for 5 months.
Right.
The next year maybe he makes a big league roster, and we're talking about how this is the first time he's ever pitched in September in his life.
That's a great point.
Which is tough. You stretch it out over 6 months. So I like that they changed the minor league season. I think it's much better and for development, and guys don't feel like, I'm exhausted. It's the middle of September. I've never been out here doing this late.
At CJ Nitkowski on Twitter is how you follow him. And, of course, you hear him every day, MLB Network Radio. CJ, really enjoyed this conversation, man. Thank you for taking the time for us. We'd love to do it again down the road.
Sounds good, Glenn. My pleasure.
CJ Nitkowski with us here on GCR, Rangers TV analyst, former MLB pitcher. Today's show is also brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. When we come back in, I will just delight your eardrums with my musical stylings. Yeah. Way to go. Nailed it over there. Nailed it. We'll do that, and then we'll get a tidbit. We'll get tidbit to wrap up the show. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Are you a diehard O's fan looking for the perfect way to show your team spirit? Look no further than Birdland Sports. Birdland Sports is a small business run by fans for fans. They offer a wide variety of unofficial O's merchandise, from the Birds Are Coming tees to player cartoon shirts and more. And the best part, their prices are more affordable than the big guys. So head to birdlandsports.com and grab your gear today. Show your support for the Birds with Birdland Sports.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles phenom Gunnar Henderson, breaking down how he was able to become the top prospect in baseball at such a young age and what could be next in his first full MLB season. Also inside, we meet lacrosse players from the men's and women's college programs across the state, and Bo Smoka breaks down another year of wide receiver issues for the Ravens. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
What air conditioning company can save 50% of your energy cost and qualify you for up to $7,500 in rebates? AJ Michaels. We do more, we do it better for less. In Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
If you miss anything on the show, don't forget that you can watch full episodes at youtube.com/pressboxonline, and you can download podcasts on Apple, iTunes, Amazon, and Grindr. Wait, did I say Grindr? I don't think that you would find it on Grindr. Not that I know it's on Grindr or anything, I swear. On second thought, you know what? I don't care what you think. Here's Glenn.
All right, we'll do tidbit and tubular, and then we'll do one shining moment, because, again, if we get kicked off at that point, life goes on. Like, it was the end of the show. We got all the sponsors in. Nobody can be mad. That's the way it is. Tidbit will be brought to you by PressBoxOnline.com/offers. Baseball season is here, and for the first time in history, you can bet from your phone in Maryland. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers for the best sportsbook offers and incentives, so you can start winning today. Get 5 second-chance bets at PointsBet when you deposit and bet your first $50. Just go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers to claim your incentive. Yes, that's you.
Yes,
yeah.
Sorry. All right.
Yeah.
All right, this one's kind of old because it happened on Saturday, but I wanted to make sure I pointed it out because Jimmy Butler became the third player ever to score 35 points, have 10 assists, and have no turnovers, while also shooting 75% in the game This is since turnovers were tracked back in 1977. He joins these two players. You think you can name them?
No, I mean it's so.
One of them was a weird answer to one of last week's.
You were asking me to remember that.
Yeah,
I don't remember any. It was a weird answer to one of last week's. Alex English.
That was Alex English. Alex English.
Alex, you keep saying that. Like it's not a weird. Alex English is a Hall of Fame basketball player.
Yeah, but he was.
I think he's just in that era of NBA basketball that's like forgotten. It was before the Bird Magic, right?
Okay, yeah. I mean, well, I think he crossed over. He was definitely with Bird.
Probably crossed over into it, but his prime years were in that.
I did the math on Alex English. I want to say was. Yeah.
They refer to it as the dark age.
76 to 91 was his career, so he was very much in that era.
Yeah,
you know,
he did this in '87. He joins also Nikola Jokic, who did it in 2018. 35 points, 10 assists.
I mean, I feel like Nikola Jokic is going to start showing up on every statistical anomaly.
Yeah.
Like, it's just he's an alien, man.
All right, so UConn played 240 minutes in 6 tournament games, and they trailed for just 31 minutes of game time.
That's
only
pretty,
13%.
That's pretty bonkers.
Yes,
that's
13%
bonkers.
of the time they were trailing, including only 55 seconds.
By the way, how ironic is it that both of the players that were on that list were both Denver Nuggets?
That is crazy.
That's weird, right?
Jimmy Butler.
Well, I assume.
Must be the altitude.
What year did you say that Alex English did it?
1987.
Yeah, he was a Nugget at that point. Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. Including they only trailed for 55 seconds in the second half of any game during their run.
I mean, it was dominant. It was utterly incomplete. I remember asking Patrick last week, "Is this just the UConn Invitational?" And he was like, "No, I think San Diego State's good. Miami's." I'm like, "Yeah, it's the UConn Invitational."
Yeah,
they were just the most complete team. You could see it. Like they had the guard that could go get a bucket,
and they defended. And so San Diego State
they had the 3-and-D wing,
right.
Andre Jackson,
Yep.
and then they had the two centers. One was their bruiser, and one was kind of their like slick, tall.
Yep.
Like could go get like buckets and also pass. Like it was a complete team.
San Diego State got there with their defense, but ultimately they didn't have nearly enough. Like you saw that after their first little flurry to start the game last night, where they go like 0 for their next 12 or something like that.
That was funny. They had
10 minutes.
They had like a carbon copy of the same 4 guards, like all the same height, could do the same things, couldn't do the same things. Like, and it gets tough when.
Yep. So it's definitely fair to call UConn, I guess, a dynasty at this point. They are the second team ever to win a title across 4 straight decades. So obviously the 90s, late in 99,
the Rip
2000s,
Hamilton one,
10s, and now the 2020s.
It's remarkable.
Who was the other team that also
4 straight decades?
Yes.
It's not Duke.
It is not Duke.
Kentucky.
It is not Kentucky.
Carolina.
It is Carolina.
Yeah, that would make sense.
One in the 80s,
yeah,
one in the 90s.
because Jordan and then that makes sense.
Yep. So they could become 5 if they got another 7 years.
Well, they came really close a year ago.
Yeah,
they came damn close.
And then since seeding began in 1979, there have been 4 head coaches to enter a tournament with 2 or fewer career tournament wins and then go on to win a title.
Since when?
Since 1979.
2 or fewer.
So Dan Hurley had 2 wins entering this tournament,
right?
And now,
and there's how many more are there?
There are 3 more.
3 more. Kevin Ollie.
Kevin Ollie, also on this list, had no tournament wins, and then went on to win with UConn in 2014.
Tubby Smith.
That was gonna be my guess.
No, not Tubby Smith.
Him
I mean, that's
Avery
the problem.
Johnson.
I guess he had won. Oh wait, what did you say? Avery Johnson?
Yeah.
They didn't win. Avery Johnson didn't win a title.
Okay,
yeah,
no.
Yeah,
I don't know why I thought he won one with Alabama.
No. How about? There's no way Tony Bennett hadn't won. Tony Bennett.
Not Tony
there's
Bennett,
no way because he had been at since '79.
Yes, in '79.
Oh God, Steve Fisher.
Yep, Steve Fisher with Michigan. No tournament wins, and then went on to win.
Well, he hadn't been the head coach.
Oh yeah.
They got rid of
in 1989.
Bill Friedel. Is that what was his name? Remember this was oh God, my brain is not functioning at the moment right now. But when Bo Schembechler said he was gonna Bill Friedel was gonna leave for Arizona State, and he was like, our coach is gonna be a Michigan man. And so he just got rid of him when he found out that he was going to leave anyway, and they ended up winning the title with Steve Fisher running the team.
Bill Frieder.
Thank you.
Yes.
You said there's one more?
One more, yes.
One more. God, I don't know why
he had one win before he went on his title
One
run.
win before his
And it
title
was
run. Nolan Richardson?
Not Nolan Richardson. It was 1983.
Oh, God.
Oh.
It was John.
NC State.
Yeah.
Oh, Jim Valvano.
Joe
Oh,
Valvano.
yeah.
Yes,
That does
yes.
make sense. Yep.
Joe Valvano, Steve Fisher, Kevin Ollie, and now Dan Hurley had
Yep.
2 or fewer wins before tournament wins
Good
before
call.
going on to win the title.
Good call.
It's a good group of just good stories
Yeah.
coming out of college basketball.
All right. Tidbit was also brought to you today by the print issue of Pressbox, which is available for only like less than 2 weeks at this point. So if you haven't gotten it yet, this great story about Gunnar Henderson, go pick it up right now for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Pressbox. Read it all. PressboxOnline.com. Tubular is brought to you by Birdland Sports. At this point, I don't think you're going to get your shirts in time for opening day. In part because I think Josh is coming up to Baltimore for opening day. I think you can
your
get them
shirt at opening day.
I believe actually you could probably coordinate with them because I think he's actually got a booth somewhere near the stadium for like the Orioles block party or something like that.
Yeah,
You might be able to reach out to Josh Soroka and say, "Hey, I want to buy a shirt. Is there any way I could get it from you on opening day?" But I also think he's going to be there selling shirts on opening day.
Because I saw he tweeted out, he was like, I'm going to bring out the 4 best sellers.
Yeah,
he was asking people what they wanted to
look,
see.
go to birdlandsports.com is the point. The shirts are awesome. They're better than what the big guys offer. The quality is still just as good. The prices are more affordable, and they're just more fun. Great shirts that are available for you to celebrate your spirit. And if you really want it for opening day, just reach out to Josh. He's a very available person. Josh Soroka, great dude. Reach out to him right now. Let him know, and he'll work with you. But birdlandsports.com is the website. Tubular is brought to you by A.J. Michaels. Expert and award-winning A.J. Michaels Heating, AC, Plumbing, and Home Performance will improve your home's energy efficiency and comfort levels. AC season is coming up fast. In my house, it felt like it needed to be there last night. New rebates and discounts are available. More at ajmichaels.com. Actually, in the studio today, it felt like we needed AC. I mean, it was warm in here when I got in here this morning. All right, here's what's coming up tonight. Tubular. The Orioles still have not announced their starting pitcher. They take on the Rangers at 8 on Masson 2. Andrew Heaney will go for Texas. Masson Rays Nationals at 7. TBS Phillies Yankees at 7. MLB Network Diamondbacks Padres at 4. Rockies Dodgers at 10. Maryland Baseball takes on William & Mary at 6:30 on Big Ten Network Plus. Wizards Bucks 7 o'clock. NBC Sports Washington. TNT has Celtics Sixers at 8. ESPN Golden Knights Predators at 8. Oilers Kings at 10:30. USA's got Leeds United, Nottingham Forest at 2:45, and WWE NXT at 8. Some non-sports highlights?
Not really. Lin-Manuel Miranda will be on Stephen Colbert.
Sure.
Because he's doing a New York Broadway.
Oh.
Keegan-Michael Key will be on Fallon. Jason Bateman for the Air Jordan movie.
Right, Air. Yes.
Air,
right.
comma, Jordan movie.
Okay.
Because
Thank
I
you.
called it.
All
I
right,
said Air
all right,
Jordan.
enough.
And then Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez also on Seth Meyers with Jason
Now,
Bateman.
was she in Cocaine Bear? Is that what she's plugging?
No, she was not.
Okay.
What a lineup of Key, Bateman, and AOC.
Yeah. NBC killing it with their late night guests tonight.
Heck of a group. All right, very good. Now,
how was trivia yesterday?
There was one sports. There actually were 2 sports-related questions, but one wasn't really sports at all. It was.
Did you get all the politics questions again this time?
I don't remember.
Did they get directed your way?
We got the final, but we were so non-committal. The final was, what is the most commonly spoken language in the southern hemisphere? There are 20 times as many people in the southern hemisphere who speak the language as there are in the northern hemisphere.
Spanish.
No.
I'm guessing. Is it an African language?
We're holding up poor
Yeah.
Sonia for a meeting. We gotta move this along.
I can't think of any specific
All I
language.
can think other than that is China in the southern hemisphere?
No.
Like, man, I don't know.
Yeah, so
We were torn between
English.
French and Portuguese because a lot of Africa speaks French, and of course Brazil is Portuguese. I decided that we were going to go with Portuguese. It was correct.
Oh, okay.
The problem was I couldn't figure out how much to wager because I was so non-committal, and the wager cost us. So we did not win last night because I only wagered 7 points on the final. And
so did you get cut from the team? Or?
Yeah, right. It was a real. I wish they would have spoken up a little bit more. Said, no, it's right. Go all in. We'll win. We didn't do that. That was a bummer. But the one sports question was name the 3 players who have won 5 or more NBA MVP awards.
5 or more NBA
Yep.
MVPs.
Jordan,
yes.
Bird.
Nope.
Shaq?
Nope.
Bill Russell.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Kobe?
Nope.
5 or more MVPs. Season MVPs.
How many players again?
I got those three. I got those two, and then I was between two people again for the third one. Ultimately got it right.
Wilt.
Not Wilt. That was who I was debating between. I was debating between Wilt and someone else. And
Elgin Baylor.
Did you say Bird? Steph Curry's only won 2, right? He's only won 2, I think.
I think so, yeah. Elgin Baylor.
No.
Gosh, it's gotta be
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was the other one. That was the third. And then the other sports question really wasn't sports. It was all of the athletes in the lyrics of Billy Joel's song "We Didn't Start the Fire" played one of 2 sports. And the only one I knew was Joe DiMaggio, so I was like, all right, baseball. And then I just thought about Billy Joel and culture at that time. I'm like, it's got to be boxing. Like, it has to be. I don't even know who it is, but it's got to be boxing. And, yes, indeed. It was Rocky Marciano, I think, was who he referenced. And it was boxing, so I got that right. All right, now, we got to do this. I said I was going to do it, so we got to do it. This is how we wrap up today's show. I lost the bet.
That's right.
You weren't good either.
Good enough.
I channel my inner Luther as we wrap up the NCAA tournament with our own one shining moment. Hang on. I need to be able to hear the music in the background. We just can't put it through the air because
talk over it.
Yeah, then we'll definitely get kicked off.
Until you get into it. That's right. So Glenn,
I'm using last night's one shining moment as my guiding light, so I don't know how that's going to go. We'll see how it feels. Here we go. Ready? The ball is tipped, and there you are. You're running for your life. You're a shooting star, and all the years, no one knows just how hard you worked.
That's right, Charles.
But now it shows.
Get into it.
In one shining moment, it's all on the line. One shining moment, they're frozen in time. The time is short, and the road is long. In the blinking of an eye, that moment's gone. And when it's done, win or lose, you always did your best.
You're doing great.
'Cause inside you knew. I can't hit that note. In one shining moment, you reached deep inside. In one shining moment, you knew you were alive. Feel the beat of your heart. Feel the wind in your face. It's more than a contest. It's more than a race.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's enough, right? Can we call it there?
We're calling it there.
I think
really?
I've done everything I needed to do, right? For God's sakes. I tried to hit. Oh, you want to go all the way? Oh, God, you jerk. I hate that. This is I can't do the guitar. I didn't bring it with me today, unfortunately.
Normally
I
have the guitar, yeah.
bring my electric guitar. Win or lose, you always did your best. 'Cause inside you knew.
Oh, yeah.
In one shining moment, you reached for the sky. One shining moment, you knew. One shining moment, you're willing to try. One shining moment, you knew. Boom, 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 boom. One shining moment. UConn is the king of the college basketball world. There you go. There's my
done. Well done.
There's my penance. God, it's the greatest song in human history.
Segued right into the video I pulled up.
Yeah,
As you said
nicely
it,
done.
It was,
nicely.
Bobby Hurley.
Bobby or Danny?
Danny
Hurley. All right. Thanks today to CJ Nitkowski. Thanks also today to Nick Boyle, former Raven. He was awesome. Frank Remesch, GM of the Arena. Patrick Stevens. We'll get all of it up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh, my God. It's so good.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Stuff and things.
Drew Force will be in tomorrow,
Okay.
and we'll take a trip to Bowie, I believe, tomorrow.
Okay, very good. We'll start our weekly segments with the Bowie Bay Sox. We'll be doing that all year long. Thanks to everybody at Pressbox, all of our great sponsors and partners, AJ Michaels, Glory Days Grill, Royal Farms, Costas Inn, Guilford Hall Brewery, Birdland Sports, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com, Hartford Community College. Thanks to Charles at charles.ap28 on Instagram.
Indeed.
Is how you follow him. At Griffin_Bass to follow him. Thanks to Griffin. Follow us at Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Tuesday night. Go Birds. Duke sucks.